There's a spin for DJ. His footwork's incredible.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Gritty three. Rebound picked up by Newton. 16 straight misses. Carabin inside. The dunk. The foul. Count it. And he hung on the rim for safety.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Edey with 5 on the shot clock. Edey inside. Oh, what a move by Edey. That's what you call a great up and under.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Under 2 minutes to go. Sears guarded by Hunter. Sears lets it fly and knocks it down. Mark Sears.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Nice and easy. Burns. Drop. Burns. Another for DJ Burns.
You're not going to play horse with him, I'll tell you that.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Rylan Griffin in traffic. Oh, nice pass. Finds Sears. Excellent ball movement there.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on 365 Sports as we get through the middle of the week, headed to the Final Four. Women Friday, Sunday, the men on Saturday, and then Monday night. We would like to welcome yet another sponsor. In fact, Paul, you may want to mention yours.
Yeah.
You text me about a golf sponsor today.
Yes, we are now partnered with golfpartner.com. They sell used golf clubs. Here's the thing. When you look for sponsors, you look for things that match the people on your show that do it. Smokey is as avid a golfer as I've ever met in my life. He also spent the formative years of his life living in Japan.
Yes.
And this is a Japanese golf, used golf club company where you need to go to the website. You'll love it because you can get used golf clubs there, order them. They'll be shipped from Japan, but you know that means quality. So they're good stuff, and so good prices on that. So, yeah, golfpartner.com will be doing some stuff with this.
All right, excited. Welcome. And also thanks to David Carry-On Solutions, an IT company. You will be hearing about them. They start this month in April. In fact, you'll hear from them for the first time on the show today. David's been great, reached out to us, and we appreciate Carry-On Solutions for being the newest member as we are approaching 4 years of doing this show on 365 Sports. Kelvin Sampson. Craig, what did you say about Big 12 Mexico?
I said that I didn't really love the idea after stewing on it a little bit. Initially, I thought it was a cool premise and made sense in trying to grow the game, so to speak, and grow the footprint of the brand. But the more I chewed on it, the more I realized what a slow, kind of tedious process that would probably be, because you're looking to basically get into the minds of young Mexican basketball, baseball, football players at an age where you make enough of an impression on them that they want to go play in the Big 12. And I don't know how realistic that is, to be perfectly honest with you. But in terms of growing the fan base, I think you can plant some seeds. I just don't think you're going to see an immediate return. And so the other part of it was, I just never loved the idea of a Houston-Kansas basketball game on the men's side, because that needs to be in Lawrence, or that needs to be in Houston, or that needs to be in
Vegas.
Vegas, Brooklyn, wherever.
Especially since next year, with 16 teams in the conference, there's not, like this year, Kansas and Houston got return trips to each other.
Sure.
But next year, that's probably not likely to happen.
Yeah. So I think that game never should have been really the game, and I just think it's a cool enough idea, but not one that I think is a game changer or one that needs to be on the forefront of what they're trying to do right now. So when I saw the news yesterday, I was glad to see that they were pushing that back and maybe rethinking it a little bit, and I guess I wasn't alone in that.
Yep, so there you go, Kelvin Sampson to Joseph Duarte saying that he wasn't a big fan of it, and I appreciate his honesty on that, but waiting until they made the decision playing good person, good conference teammate until they changed their mind. All right. A.J. Stewart was a part of the Baylor staff under Dave Aranda. He left. Keenan Hall now is Baylor's running backs coach who was at SMU. Brett McMurphy yesterday, he said he didn't say former, but former Baylor assistant coach, running backs coach A.J. Stewart, joining the staff at Kansas as an analyst. Of course, former Baylor offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes is there, so A.J. Stewart lands at KU.
Yeah, the wording of this and not having former had me initially going, oh my gosh, they just lost another coach in the middle of spring ball. I was like, geez Louise.
But then I remember him leaving, when you said that, yeah.
Yeah, he left. He was, basically, he was fired, I guess you could say, and there's never an official announcement or anything. They moved on from him as they moved on from Jeff Grimes as offensive coordinator. So, yeah, they went and hired Keenan Hall. Keenan Hall's been a big get on the recruiting trail and just a young coach that has a lot of irons in the fire that they're really excited about. And so, yeah, A.J. Stewart had the short stint coming over from Oregon State where he coached some really good backs, guys like Damian Martinez, but it was just all kind of a mess offensively last year for Baylor. So, he was off to do new things after getting let go, and I'd kind of forgotten about him, honestly. So when I saw his name pop up, I had that initial of like, oh my gosh, they lost a coach. Oh yeah, that's right, he's not on the staff anymore. But I had wondered at various points of where was he going to end up? And so it was good to see A.J. Stewart land in Lawrence, and obviously the familiarity with Jeff Grimes and the Kansas connection. So good for him, and that's a nice analyst to add on to the staff for Lance Leipold in Kansas.
Yeah, I got to be honest with both of you, too, and the audience, that when I was like, oh, damn. Yeah. And I'm thinking, because there's been a lot of ups and changes and like musical chairs, but good for A.J. Stewart. Glad he found a role.
Well, put it this way. We talked to Kevin Curtis, the cornerbacks coach, yesterday, and if I have this in my mind correctly, I think he's the only staffer that's still with Aranda from the first year. I mean, the entire rest of the staff, I think, has been replaced, if not at least once, at least twice at this point. Quarterbacks coach is gone now with Sean Bell. That's now Jake Spavital. Running backs coach has flipped a couple different times. Offensive line coach flipped twice this offseason. Wide receivers coach Dallas Baker wasn't the original coach.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about.
He wasn't the original under Aranda because he came in, I think, a couple years in, but now I can't remember who was the original coach. So maybe I'm missing on that one. Defensive line coach just flipped this offseason. Inside linebackers coach flipped this offseason. Caleb Collins, I don't believe, was on that original staff.
He was brought in.
And so then you've got Kevin
Collins
Curtis.
Replaced Joey.
Oh, that's right. He replaced Joey. Yeah, he replaced Joey McGuire. Yeah, that's right. So, and then obviously Curtis, I said, is the day one, and then safeties Pallage has been back and forth. So he's the only mainstay off of that original staff, I do believe.
The wide receivers coach originally was George. No, he was George Munoz.
Yeah, George. There you go. Yeah, man, that seems like forever ago.
So how about this? You could say a lot if you want. The Angel Reese story died down the day after that, and people continue to discuss it. And I got something to say about that I saw, and I'm going to give Nick Wright credit, who's on Fox Sports. But Angel Reese, this was impressive. Vogue magazine breaking the story that she's turning pro, and she now will enter the WNBA draft. Today, I think, is the deadline to do that. It was like a 48-hour window. It might still have a few hours left. Angel Reese today announcing through Vogue magazine that she is turning pro at WNBA.
Yeah, I kind of felt like this was inevitable. It's time for her. Obviously, she can go back and make a ton of NIL money at LSU. But I do think, and I would not be surprised if the WNBA was kind of tell like, hey, we have an opportunity here to really bank off of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and these stars that are coming out of women's college basketball right now. So maybe, I don't know if they can send messages, but like, hey, it would be a great idea if you came out too. And look, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are two players whose talent is not separated by very much. Clearly, we've seen that. So they have different skill sets, obviously, but if you have those two players in the top 5 picks of your draft, and those are probably the top 2 picks in your draft. I think that's really good news for the WNBA.
Yeah, I think it's a great sign for women's basketball that this is a topic at the start of this show, because I don't know how often or how many other players where it would have been, or where making a decision was going to be that big of a deal, right? But with her, I guess, persona and fan base and detractors and all that comes with it, the attention on LSU, the attention on the game right now, I do think it's just another kind of little sign of like, hey, there's a little something trending right now with this sport and with the group of personalities that they have. And so that's a great addition for the WNBA from a star standpoint. I don't know, how they plan to capitalize, because I think that's the thing now is the WNBA can't just bring in players and then just keep doing what they've always been doing and thinking that they're just going to suddenly score huge ratings and the business is going to go to a different level just because certain players. You've got to figure out a way to really maximize it. I think that the women's game just in general, and college is still figuring that out to an extent, but they've caught fire and they're rolling with it, and they should have huge numbers for the Final Four with the teams that are involved. The UConns, the South Carolinas, there's plenty of more storylines, even though LSU's out. But, I'd be curious. I guess the thing I'd be most curious about is not really what happens from here, but I'd wonder what the NIL offer at LSU was like compared to what she's going to get, making in the WNBA.
She's supposed to be able to get the NIL money in college as well as in the WNBA. I don't know how that works, but
it's like an endorsement.
Money. Yeah,
I mean, she might get it. She might end up getting the same amount of money, and even more so from Vogue or whoever else.
Why would you stop paying her just because she's a professional now?
Well, I'm talking like from the LSU perspective. She's going to have her Calvin Klein or whatever. But I'm saying like the LSU part of it. I wonder. I'm just saying I wonder how much she was making versus what she's going to go make now.
I think people like
let's call Pete Nakos.
Yeah. I think people like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese make way more from the other ones than they do. Like LSU.
You think it's $1 million or more? I think it is.
Oh yeah, I think.
I know that early on we heard those numbers and I thought it was silly, and it probably was. But I think that they're in that neighborhood.
I don't think Iowa and LSU are paying them $1 million, but I think they're paying them a competitive enough rate to keep them there, knowing that all right, here's where you are, and then you can just stand there and let your agents roll the money in for you, which is clearly what these two have done.
Yeah, I'm more or less just interested in like what's the going rate for a superstar women's basketball player in college right now. Like, how much are you pulling?
I think there's a very small handful.
Right, and she's one of them. So
Paige Beckers maybe. Yeah,
and it's not like something I'm dwelling on or really giving much thought to. It's just a passing comment of like, I wonder what the difference would be. But she's going to be fine. I don't have any concerns about that whatsoever. So good for her. And that's a big loss for LSU, obviously.
Kim Coulter, afternoon fellow degenerates in the chat room. Dan Meister, hello, fellow chat rats. Hello, everyone. Hey, by the way, we're going to hear from Jamar Cheney, Baylor inside linebackers coach at like 3:40. And on top of that, we're going to check in with Texas Tech, TCU, and Oklahoma State today when we kind of look in on some of what's happened so far when it comes to spring football. Angel Reese, real quick comment. This is not mine, but it made sense. So Nick Wright is on Fox Sports. He's been a national TV guy for a while. He said he was giving her advice, log off. And this was advice to really anybody. And he said that when he became more national and he would go on Twitter, like he was probably hammered for opinions that were just opinions, even win-loss predictions or whatever. And I need to learn this too, and I think I've gotten better at it. But log off. Just log off. Because Craig, you said this, and Paul, 98.8% of everything that she's heard or negative, whatever was at her, was probably not people on the street, but social media.
Well, yeah.
That's the way kids dive into things, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or
adults
Snapchat
too.
Or also Twitter and all. But I thought it was great advice. Just log off. And when you can't read, you can't get disappointed or hurt from.
So, years ago, when the Mavericks and Heat were playing in the finals and the Mavericks won, LeBron James had not won his title yet. And the Mavericks won that, and there was a lot of flack. Everybody remembers them making fun of Dirk because he was sick, and then Dirk just destroyed them that night.
One of the greatest postseason runs in all of sports history.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Truly, Dirk beat everybody.
So Smokey and I covered the games. We're in doubt. We did our show from AAC. It was really fun. And after the game, we had a miscommunication where Smokey went to our car and I went down to the post game because I could tell LeBron was pissed and I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. And Greg Doyle, who now is back with the Indianapolis Star, but he was with somebody else then, maybe Yahoo or whatever. Greg Doyle asked him, you are getting a lot of criticism about being the best individual player in the NBA, but you haven't won a title yet. What do you say to those people? And at the time, people heard it, and it came off like LeBron is this gigantic jerk, which I'm not going to take a side on that right now because I think it's nebulous. But he said, look, I'm going to wake up in the morning and be me, and those people are going to wake up and be them, and I'm not worried about it. And basically, it's like, I'm LeBron James, B words. Like, it does not matter to me what they say. And it came off wrong, but now I look back from it, and again, hindsight is 20/20, and we learn a lot. And I'm like, you know what? Good for him. That's what, look, Angel Reese, you're one of the best athletes in the world right now. People love watch you. They love to hate watch you. It doesn't matter. If they're watching, it's great. And most of them could never even get in the stratosphere of doing what you do. So who gives a crap about what they say? Wake up in the morning, be Angel Reese, the badass basketball player, and walking endorsement, and be awesome, and just don't worry about them.
Yep. So there you are. Great advice. I know GJ or JG's not a big fan of Nick Wright because of opinions that he has over LeBron and Jordan. It's fine. I mean,
but that point is valid, though. Like, I mean, there's people that I don't like, but it doesn't mean I just rule out everything that they say. I mean, there can be people you don't like, but they still have valid opinions on certain things. Even if you don't see eye to eye on everything. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with him. I think I said this yesterday about so much of what she sounded like she was complaining about was social media. And it'd be one thing if it was going after the reporters, and initially it kind of seemed like that's what it was based on her being in the press room and then all the stuff that had happened in the week prior. But the more I was listening to it, I was like, she's talking about people on Twitter and Instagram, and it's like TikTok, and it's like, who cares? You're Angel Reese. Like, and look, everybody has been trolled or has people who, come after them or whatever at some point in time. And yeah, honestly, the best medicine is sometimes to just get off of it. And the more you're on it, I think the sicker you get, honestly. I take massive breaks from social media just personally, and I don't have anything close to what Angel Reese has. I don't have haters in my mentions or whatever. And even if I did, or I do at times, it's not going to like change my life. So yeah, she's got to be able to get that out of her head. And I think that's also what I was saying yesterday. It's about young people. I hope they realize, like, to the extent of, how that's infiltrating your life, and to be more mindful of the whole social media aspect, because it's really not healthy in the long run.
It is the way it is. And so, again, that's just whether you like his other stuff or not. I thought it was great advice. I was listening to it this morning.
Believe me, there's plenty of things I don't agree with him on, but I do agree with him on that. Yeah.
But in that specific instant, I can disagree with 9 out of his 10 opinions. In that one, I thought it was great advice. And I again, have become someone that's lived by that. All right, Eddie Lampkin. How many teams do most guys end up with, or whoever?
3 now.
Eddie Lampkin, TCU, Colorado, now Syracuse. Did not take long. We know that, and I'm not saying this about Syracuse, so Orangeman fans, calm down. Orange fans, calm down. Orange persons, calm down. We know that when someone enters the transfer portal, what are the likely percentages that most likely someone has already been in contact with them even before they enter the portal?
I would 100? Say, yeah, I would say.
I believe tampering is going on all the time.
I just
figure that it is.
Portal, yeah. So, but good for them. Good for him. He finds a spot. 10 points and 7 rebounds at Colorado, who they're pretty decent this year. Dick Weiss had this very late last night. Bronny James entering. Paul mentioned his top 5 transfers. Bronny James, USC freshman, entering the portal. However,
LeBron James did not confirm or deny it last night after the game when he was asked about it, or after practice when he was asked about it, and said he's his own man. He's got decisions to make, which I think is the sound of USC. Tell us what you got. Plus, USC's got to hire a new coach, which we know who the leading candidate for that is right now. As reports,
we're about to tell you that.
Yeah, we're about to tell you that. So I think that's going to affect what Bronny James does. He averaged less than 5 points a year this year, but granted, he started the year with that very scary situation with his heart condition. So who's ever getting Bronny James and can get him for a full season, we'll see what he's worth to your roster outside of just being the son of LeBron James. But he's not officially in yet. But given the way these things go, it would not shock me to see him be in the portal. I don't know if he's going to SMU, but to follow Andy Enfield, but we'll see.
I mean, this you pointed to him saying like maybe it's an NIL. It better not be, because if anybody needs to be saying show us what you got, it's USC to Bronny James. Like, how about you show us and then we'll reciprocate, because we've already kind of made that investment and we haven't gotten our return. Unless the social media stats are just spiking, and that was the reward for signing him, and not all his fault because of the health issue that you mentioned, but a young man with a lot of pressure on his shoulders because of the name, and I know it's not official. Obviously, your mind goes straight to Andy Enfield at SMU. I don't know if that's high profile enough. I saw a lot of people.
LeBron's going to end up with the Mavericks.
They don't. Yeah, no,
I'm just,
no.
Just.
I mean, hey, if you want to add him somehow, like, cool, let's go Kyrie, Luka, and LeBron. I mean, I'd be all for that. But he's a guy who, I don't know, Ohio State got mentioned because that's LeBron's, childhood favorite, and where he said he would have gone. Or I know Duke. He's kind of got some Drake to him. LeBron does, but he's a guy who obviously has a love for Ohio State that goes way back. But I immediately saw Ohio State fans going, no, we've got way too many guards. Like, we've got an overabundance of guards. So it doesn't seem like Ohio State would be a spot. I mean, Andy Enfield in Dallas, you'd think that he'd maybe look there, but I guess we'll see on his official status when it comes to that. But obviously a huge name. I did want to point out, and I was going to mention this guy anyways, but our buddy Evan Miyakawa, did you see the news?
Yeah, Evan from Evan Mia, M-I-Y-A, Evan M-Y-I-A. We've had him on the show in his analytics, yes.
Evan Miyakawa, who's got tons of different analytics, announced today that he is quitting his full-time job to dedicate his whole workforce, workload, and attention to his website, to evanmaya.com, because of so much of the attention and the people signing up and the coaches and others that are looking to get more out of his analytics. And so he's got a thriving business, and he mentioned that it was something that he started working on when he was doing like his post-grad or whatever, and it's now blossomed into becoming his full-time job a few years later. So that's pretty cool. But I bring him up not only because we had him on when he was doing his end of school work and right, starting up this website. We talked to him right at the very beginning, and it's been cool to watch his journey. But he also, on his site, mentioned yesterday that Bronny's transfer ranking right now would be 82nd.
Yeah, no,
on
Garrett,
his website.
What did you say in the text? I don't know if
to me, Bronny is an average basketball player. I think Bryce, his younger brother, has potential to be the better player, and if he wasn't LeBron's son, he wouldn't be getting the attention, and he would probably be playing at a school more of his caliber to actually get on the court.
Okay, and he's in L.A.
In other words, yes,
with the Lakers, etc.
I think he definitely gets the name bump, and that's what I was getting at as well. So, yeah, I mean, Evan has him as like the 82nd best transfer prospect in his rankings right now, and to each their own.
When there's like 5,000 transfers, that's actually not bad, but still an 80. So
he's talented, don't get me wrong, but his skill level has been debated because it does feel like he got slapped with a 5-star because of your 5-star dad. And so we'll see what the market looks like for him, but there will be plenty of attention, I'm sure.
We got 2 or 3 more things to get to before the break, or our interview with Jamar Cheney. Who has more, you think, pressure on them as a son of a star, Shedeur, Shiloh, or Bronny?
I don't feel like Shiloh's just kind of in the background to me.
But he's a pretty good player.
No, he's a good player.
Shedeur or Bronny?
Shedeur's far more out front. Shedeur's also intentionally kind of out front. I don't see Bronny, all the time but I don't follow these guys, I hear more from Shedeur. So I know he's got more of a defensive mode that he gets into, kind of like his dad when it comes to the media and things like that. I don't know how Bronny treats those things. I don't know enough about him.
Well, maybe that's
in that
good
way.
That you don't know what that you don't. I don't follow him.
I think that Bronny probably has more pressure just naturally. I think that Shedeur has made it to where he now has more pressure to prove
and kind of almost likes
that he's the man.
Yeah.
Because of just how he's kind of embraced it all.
But I also think, like, if you look at the Bronny situation, I think it's a more similar comparison to Arch Manning.
Oh, keep chopping. The Manning kid could be in the discussion too. There you go. Great point in the chat
also, keep chopping. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we mentioned Bronny James, and Andy Enfield now is at SMU, and I reached out to them, and maybe after the Final Four we'll be able to get Andy Enfield on the show on his move, and admitted that he did it because they're a part of the ACC, which is awesome for SMU. Speaking of USC, Eric Musselman, according to many of the national writers, is now the primary And then some said the leading candidate, same thing, for USC's search for a new head coach, Arkansas had a bad year. They have struggled. And so there we are with Musselman. All of a sudden, here comes that revolving door. If he goes to USC, then somebody goes to Arkansas, then somebody goes to whatever else. So there we are.
Musselman was an NBA guy, and now he's in college. He's fiery as all get out. I think sometimes he acts like a bit of a clown. But look, if it works for you, it works. So, you do you, Muss, and see how it works. And if it works at UFC, maybe that's what they need there to fire up the program now that Andy Enfield's gone. And, they lose a really good coach in Andy Enfield. He got him to the tournament several times. And he got Florida Gulf. The reason he got that job, he got Florida Gulf Coast to the tournament. So they're going to have to replace a good coach. Eric Musselman's had teams that have been really good. Look, they knocked out Kansas last year in the tournament. They got to Baylor, beat him the Elite Eight, right?
Yes.
In 2021. And
that might have been, other than the Villanova game when they were down at halftime, that might have been one of the more competitive games.
Yeah,
with Arkansas.
because they had Houston right after that, and that was a
boat racing, as it was with Gonzaga for the most part.
I think he's left it better than he found it. If he does in fact leave the Arkansas job, I think it would be a pretty coveted job. It's in the SEC. It's a program that's won a national championship, albeit a long time ago. But as you just mentioned, it was only a couple years ago. They were knocking right on that door in the Elite Eight and being very competitive with the eventual national champion squad in Baylor. So I think you only have to type in like couple search words and you can see probably a candidates list for Arkansas. It seems like based on the things that I've been reading, they're sort of prepared for this because Musselman's flirted with the idea of leaving before. So you've got Arkansas fans that I know of who are kind of in a state where we'd love to have him back, but at this point, if he goes, he goes, and it wouldn't be much of a shocker. And so I think they've already been preparing for that for probably a while now. So, I think the most interesting part would be where does Arkansas turn, and then who does that affect? It would be a good hire for Musselman and USC, I think. But, where would Arkansas turn to? There's a boatload of candidates that have already been mentioned, and that would be certainly very intriguing.
We mentioned this on the Oklahoma State job, which has now been filled. Mike Boynton Jr., who was there, about to join Dusty May's staff at Michigan as an assistant coach, has other options at higher mid-level or major levels, but May has put a priority. It would be a great place for Mike Boynton to end up if he ends up on the staff with Dusty May at Michigan.
That'd be a great hire. I think we're all fans of Mike Boynton, right? I think most people are. I think everybody's just, aware of the fact that Oklahoma State couldn't just kind of get over a little bit of a hump, and there was reasons as to why for that. But I think Mike Boynton's very well respected. Nobody's doubting his basketball mind. It's just Oklahoma State had to do what's best for their program ultimately. And he's definitely got a spot still in the game. So I think that'd be a great hire for a new staff there with Dusty May and company in Ann Arbor, and a great landing spot for Mike Boynton, fresh off the Stillwater gig.
Again, another reminder, we have Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and also TCU that we're going to drop in on with football spring going on, spring practices and games eventually happening around the corner. Gino Auriemma, there are like 5 coaches, and it might even be their tone or their diction, their clear how they speak, and even sometimes a little accent. Like I could listen to Nick Saban at a press conference for a long time. And I absolutely, when Gino Auriemma was in Waco, when they played Baylor, and also elsewhere, I love watching and listening to him, and the most dominant run he was ever had. The John Wooden, all of Pat Summitt, I know of what he's done with women's basketball. How do you plan on stopping Caitlin Clark? We don't. We don't plan on stopping her because I tried calling all the other coaches that have stopped her, and none of them answer the phone. So we're going to have to find a different way. After the loss to Iowa, Kim Mulkey was asked about it in the post-game press conference, and she was very often. She said, listen, it's not Caitlin Clark who basically beats you, even though it is. It's all the others that she gets in the play, involved. And if they do well, along with her 30 points or so, or 41, then it's really almost impossible, not impossible to beat Iowa. But I thought Auriemma talking about nobody answered the phone because there was nobody to call. Yeah. Nobody has actually been able to stop her. But that doesn't mean Iowa's not unbeatable because they've lost some games during the regular season.
Yeah, but also, Kim, that doesn't mean that you don't have to switch your defender. Maybe.
Yeah, don't put some short girl on top of her when she's launching from 25 feet.
When the girl very visually forever will be a meme.
Haley Van
off
Lith
right
is who you're talking
about.
Haley
Van Lith. What she's supposed to do. I mean, that maybe is the indication.
I hate that for her, but it's a great. I thought it was
funny, and I hope that she thinks it's funny because what do you like? Hey, again, what are you going to do? I'll go back to the night I covered the Cotton Bowl when Johnny Manziel beat Oklahoma. I went down expecting angry Bob Stoops, and I basically got that Bob Stoops was like, well, I mean, he's like, 3rd and 17, you got the kid dead to rights. He throws the ball to a 6'10" wide receiver who jumps out of the friggin' stadium. What are you going to do?
Yep.
I mean, that's what he said. So, again, sometimes that's what you have to be like, what are we going to do?
Yep, absolutely. It's honest, being honest. Adam Schefter and others who cover the NFL, when I saw this story, one, I had to make sure it was real. Garrett, were you the one that sent this out?
Yes, sir.
And then I started thinking, and I started thinking about how much the Cowboys and fans, especially the fans, always wanted the brothers Diggs to play on the same team. Cowboys have always been spoiled with wide receivers. They still have CeeDee Lamb, and yet they want more, and I get it. Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans, who had a really good year with C.J. Stroud and company for draft pick compensation. My goodness, the Texans with a bombshell, and the Bills moving on from Stefon Diggs.
They're going for it. They are putting the pedal to the floor and deciding. And look, the Texans have kind of been victims of not going for it in the past. They had Deshaun Watson, and they were building up slowly. And, of course, what happened with Deshaun Watson happened. But they've decided, like, you only live once, and let's go for it. We've got C.J. Stroud. He's young. He's on his rookie contract. We've got Tank Dell on a rookie contract. Nico Collins is on a favorable contract. We've got all this cap room. Let's go do this. The Bills are up against the cap like nobody's business, and their starting center, their top 2 wide receivers, their best defensive, their best safety, and their best cornerback are all out the door now, not to mention some other guys, because of that cap problem. And good for the Texans. They're going for it, man. I think when you've got a wide receiver core that is Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and then running back Joe Mixon and Dalton Schultz at tight end, that is plenty of weapons for C.J. Stroud in year 2.
Yeah, the Bills' window is not necessarily closed with Josh Allen, but their Bills' window as far as this iteration of what we've seen the last few years is definitely done now. So Josh Allen, suddenly I think the Will Smith meme came into play here as well. You're looking around the room, where did everybody go? Kind of is probably how he's feeling at the moment. So, yeah, this Bills team is going to look way different, even though you still have the star quarterback. Terrell Bernard, we're obviously a huge fan of him on the defensive side. He'll be around as well, but Diggs has been a mainstay here and a big part of what they've done. So kudos to the Texans for going and making a move. They've got a hot quarterback who's just fresh off of about as good of a rookie season as you could have hoped for. He's going to have guys wanting to play with him and for him. And so I think you're adding a bona fide weapon to an offense that's really just getting started, and also with a head coach that's very likable, that's got that young fire about him as well, plus the experience of playing in recent years. And I just think they've got a great dynamic with DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud as the base of it all. Oh. And then you start adding other pieces to that.
And they get Stroud on the cheap right now, too.
Yeah, so I think it's a great move for Houston, and definitely a blow for Buffalo. So we'll see how they start to react. But they were in cap hell, so this was going to be a situation where you're going to have some type of shrapnel. But yeah, that's a great thing to see for football fans in the state of Texas, and I'm sure Trayvon is excited that even though Dallas to Houston's not a short little jaunt, it's still much closer than what you had to go through to go see your brother beforehand, so that'll be fun for those two.
So there is concern about, other than the NCAA men's tournament, which maybe it expands another 4 to 8 teams or not, there's the NIT, which was started back in the 30s, that was the tournament. There's even been a preseason NIT. Well, Fox is now, and FS1 announced today that they will start an inaugural tournament in the spring of 2025 at the MGM Grand Garden Arena and T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. It will be for those schools who do not get selected into the NCAA tournament, the Big 10, Big 12, and the Big East, with additional at-large participants will be involved, including, you know how we talked about this with college football as far as, I guess, automatic qualifiers, that those conferences will have at least 2 teams involved in the tournament. It's called the College Basketball Crown.
What did the NIT do to these people to deserve this?
They got their championship game coming up tomorrow, by the way. I don't know how many people know that, but it's Seton Hall versus Indiana State. Yeah.
And look, and maybe as just someone who's seen it firsthand, that the NIT can really help you build into the next season. Although now with the transfer portal, it's a little less of a guarantee that you've played well down the stretch, because you can be playing in the NIT and think like, man, if I can keep these guys together next year, maybe we can do something. Well, maybe not. So maybe this is just inevitable. I hate it for the NIT. I feel like they didn't do anything to deserve, getting picked apart, because you're taking
if the money's
16,
different than what you get with the NIT compared to this new one. You would think so.
Yeah. If you're taking 6 teams, guaranteed out of those 3 leagues that are all really good, then that's going to certainly hurt the NIT product.
Yeah, I don't know how all that's going to work. I mean, I think it's smart to have a smaller field of 16, so that's a pretty quick tournament that you can roll through. You don't need a ton of teams when you're already selecting from, 68 and beyond, and then who knows what the NCAA tournament looks like here pretty soon. So you're not wanting to drag the bottom of the barrel, right? Because you're wanting to get people to tune in and be interested. So I think there's a sweet spot there where there's still plenty of worthy teams who are on that borderline. But what does this do to the NIT? I don't know. That's going to be very interesting. And this one with the backing of Fox and the backing of some of the promotional partners that they have, obviously the partnership with the conferences themselves. I mean, they're partnered up with the Big 10, Big East, and Big 12. You got comments from Petiti and Yormark and all those guys in the press release for it. So I like the name, the College Basketball Crown. I like that. That's catchy. But yeah, we'll see how this plays, and we'll see what kind of I think I said the word shrapnel a few moments ago. I don't think I've ever used it twice this close together, but we'll see what kind of shrapnel the NIT takes from this. I don't know how exactly that's going to work.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking, I think Kyle or somebody was asking about the NIL basketball tournament. Baylor was a part of that. It was up in Detroit, right? With Michigan State and
I think
others.
they're talking about the new one.
Yeah, no, that's the one we just discussed. But there's another preseason like NIT or another basketball tournament that's NIL that's already, but that was already announced.
Well, yeah, we're talking NIT. This is NIL, yeah.
No, what we just discussed is the one that's going to be in March of 2025, an NIT option. But there's already an NIL tournament that we discussed, I think, a few weeks back. I don't know all the details of it.
Right, it starts next year.
Yes, and then there's also, Baylor was a part of one that was an NIL tournament, I think, with Michigan State and others, because that's how Scott Drew has also been able to raise money with the NIL for his program.
That South Dakota game.
That's what I was going to say, the Pentagon game. That's what that is.
Yeah, that's a straight-up NIL game, which I think we're probably heading for a time in college basketball where 30 to 40% of your non-conference games will be that.
Yeah. Grayson Ganoush, what kind of crown is placed on the head of the 69th best team in the nation? Is it cream-colored?
I said it was catchy. I didn't say it made a lot of sense, but yes.
It's just a Burger King one that they've repainted.
You know what? That's actually not a bad idea. It's actually not a bad idea. A little paper crown, but yeah, that's a good one.
Joseph, NIT changed the rules to NIT changed the rules to appease the bigger conferences, and then they gave them their middle finger by declining invitations and starting their own tournament.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I mean, we saw that with multiple teams this past year, right? So, yeah, you wonder how all those discussions were going on behind the scenes, and that's with the championship game coming up tomorrow for the NIT to have this drop the day before. It's got to feel like another little punch in the gut, especially to see the partners. I just mentioned the conferences that are already going to have those 2 auto bids, and they're clearly partnered up with this Crown tournament. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. There's obviously an appetite for postseason basketball. I think we can say that. It's as healthy as it's ever been, but how sustainable is it for everybody? This Crown one's got some pretty good backing, so we'll see. The NIT's been around a long time, but they may have to pivot in a few areas.
A little bit over the 4 o'clock hour, Robert Allen, Chris Level on Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Stephen Johnson from the Star-Telegram on TCU. As we start to make the rounds, I think tomorrow and Friday we have a couple of more, 2 or 3 teams that we'll drop in on, and of course all 16 we'll get to. Grayson on Friday can help us with that along with what we discuss ourselves. But speaking of which, Jamar Cheney he was a star player at Mississippi State, drafted by the Eagles in the NFL. He initially signed with Florida, but because of an issue with his test score, he ended up at Mississippi State. I kind of looked around on some stories about him. He seems to be a nice breath of fresh air for them at the inside linebacker's position. That doesn't mean what they had was wrong, but I had a chance to visit with him. Jamar Cheney, Baylor's inside linebackers coach, is next. We appreciate your time today. And again, thanks to Carry On Solutions and
Golf Partner
for our newest sponsors of 365 Sports. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. And here's how you find out if he can help you. As you get older, mid-30s, upper 30s, early 40s, your testosterone level can drop. Not everybody. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. ED, sex drive not the same, energy, sleep habits, body fat, even though you exercise or you're active and you have a good diet, it can happen. It's just part of whatever, that life lottery. And so if, in fact, you have any of those symptoms, contact PettyClinicalOT.com. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. They will take care of that for you. Get the results. Dr. Petty will look at them. And if it's too low, your testosterone level, they can put you in a program to increase your testosterone so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicalOT.com.
Rev up your excitement. Celebrate the spirit of adventure during the Jeep Celebration event. Join us at Allen Samuels in Waco as we roll out incredible deals on rugged and reliable Jeep vehicles you love. Seize the moment and drive home in the new Jeep of your dreams. With special financing options and exclusive offers, there has never been a better time to explore the world of Jeep. Hurry in, the savings won't last long. Visit AllenSamuelsDCJ.com and see them firsthand only at Allen Samuels in Waco. Let your adventure begin.
Come by, let's be friends.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Baylor inside linebackers coach Jamar Cheney, NFL veteran, also played at Mississippi State. Jamar, thanks for your time. You've coached a lot. You were at outside linebackers at Western Kentucky. What's the difference between outside and inside based on what Aranda does, Dave Aranda at Baylor?
It's a little different. Usually outside linebacker is more like an edge guy, kind of hybrid. So he plays, kind of like when you think of outside linebacker, you think of like a Von Miller or, DeMarcus Ware type guys. They're mostly ends and they drop sometimes. The good thing about Western Kentucky is the outside linebackers was actually like almost inside guys. So they did a lot. They played the edge and did a lot of things normal outside backers do, but they also did a lot of stuff that the inside linebackers do, way more than you would do normally at the outside backer. In Aranda's scheme, the outside backer, he's mainly a rusher. He doesn't have a huge responsibility, I think, pass coverage wise, but so I think that's the difference. I play against outside linebackers, so that's what I think I'm most familiar with. I think coaching outside linebackers actually helped me out for when inside linebackers are actually putting those positions to rush on the edge and line on the edge and do those type of things. But I'm an inside linebacker guy by trade just because that's what I actually played.
So you have either played or coached under some amazing names: Mike Leach, Dan Mullen, Sylvester Croom, Andy Reid, Billy Napier, who's now at Florida, of course. You were there as an analyst. Sean McDermott, Todd Bowles. How much have you been able to, marinate, I use that word a lot, or saturate that inside your blood?
I think, you have to. I always knew I wanted to be a coach after I was done, so just trying to take a little bit from each one of those guys. I actually have a good relationship with all those guys. Andy Reid, Dan Mullen, Todd Bowles. So, I'm constantly, picking their brains and trying to see what they see and things that they have that can help me become a better coach. So it's been a blessing to be around, to be able to coach with and play for those guys. And it's just me just kind of using it kind of like, a melting pot, just picking certain things from each one of those guys to kind of apply to how I do things,
All right, so I saw a podcast, and I'm almost positive it was you and Mason Miller. You were at Mississippi State and doing a podcast at a restaurant. Was that you on the back patio having food and enjoying life?
I don't remember me doing one of the podcasts.
Well, it was you sitting down with a restaurant owner and I think a booster and just kind of shooting it, and enjoying yourself.
They did do those things when I first got to Mississippi State.
Yeah. And so we've had Mason on and we talked quite a bit about that. So it made me think. You've been a lot of places. You've been all over the South, and now you're in Texas. Wherever you, and of course, played in the NFL with Atlanta, Denver, the Raiders, and drafted by the Eagles. Where's the best food you've ever played or eaten?
I would have to go with Philadelphia. And I was there for 4 years. They got so many restaurants there, man. The cheesesteaks are awesome. So I would have to go with of Philly, just because I think longevity there, being there, so I get to experience a lot of different places. So I would have to go Philadelphia.
All right, so energy, passion. How do you as a coach have that, show that, and make sure players understand it's real?
I'm a big relationship guy, so my players, they gonna know, and I'm in the phase of doing that right now. My players gonna know that I care for them, that I love them, that I'm going, I got their back no matter what. But with that gonna come, tough coaching, So once, I gain that trust, and we become, they come familiar with my coaching style and things like that, and they know, like, okay, Coach Cheney just looking out for the best of me, or Coach Cheney really want me to accomplish everything I'm trying to accomplish here at Baylor. He wants that for me, but he's got to push me, he got to grind me, he got to do certain things to make sure, he's constantly motivating me, encouraging me at the same time, and just continue to build those guys up so they can achieve those things. So honestly, that hasn't been like a hard thing for me to do, just because I'm like a big relationship guy. Like, I've been in their shoes, so I know I kind of, whatever the things that I like when I was a player, I kind of do the same thing with those guys. So that part hasn't been hard for me, as far as like, motivating those guys and coaching those guys hard, because they know that I'm there for them on and off the field. I still have a relationship with my guys that I coached back when I was a high school head coach. Still in group chats with those guys, still talk to those guys. So those my players know, like, when I coach, we lock in for life. So I think that kind of helped me out, get to my players and able to coach them as hard as I can.
You were a star linebacker at St. Lucie Centennial. Were you a coachable player, or were there times when you had to kind of, learn how to have someone tell you what to do?
I was always a coachable player, just because, I don't know, God gave me a vision at a young age, and I just felt like, anybody I ever come in contact with is trying to help me to get to where I want to get to. Ultimately, that was the NFL, that, I'm listening to what they got to say, and I'm going to do everything I got to do to accomplish that. So, that's probably why, I got a good relationship with all those guys that coach me, because they know, like, there was one thing about me, what they would say, like, that's Andy Reid, Dan Moore, that outside of, my athletic ability, like, hey, he was a hard worker, he going to do whatever you tell him to do. And that's just because I had the mindset of, I see that goal, I see where I want to get at, and I'm gonna do everything I can to get to there. And you're my coach, I'm gonna listen to you, so that kind of contributes to me getting there. You probably got more knowledge than me. I'm trying to gain the knowledge that you have to help me accomplish that goal. So that was kind of my mindset as a player. So I never really had a problem, not listening and trying to get back on track, because I was very focused on my goals and things I wanted to accomplish.
What's it like to be on a staff with Dave Aranda for what he's known for defensively, and he's taken over, as we all know, as the defensive coordinator, as long as the head coach, and Matthew Pallage, who was the DC last year and where he's been, and then to have Gary Patterson, who's one of those known as a defensive guru, to have all those guys around you and learn from them, and you also coach a part of their defense? Oh, that was a big reason why chose to come in as well. Of course, it's a great opportunity, but I thought, with me being a coach, the opportunity to learn as well, and to learn from somebody like Coach Aranda, that's one of the top defensive minds in the game. Not only that, he's a linebacker guy. That's the position I coach. Just being able to come with him and learn from him was huge. And I didn't even know Gary Patterson was here until I got here on the interview. And just knowing that he's here, head coach, I think 24, 26 years or something like that. At one school, I think, and then all the success that he's had at TCU, man. So that just put the cherry on top. And like you said, Coach Pallage, he's close with a guy that I worked with, Patrick Toney. He was a DC in Florida. So that was a big reason why I chose to come as well. Is that those guys, being able to work with those guys, but not only work for those guys, but work with those guys, but learn from those guys as well. So I think that'll help me out in the long run as well, learn from those guys. What was your first conversation with Dave Aranda, and how much have you had to kind of learn his style? Cerebral, deep thinker. Sometimes you wonder where there is blood boiling inside of him, but there's a fire. We know that. He can coach. But they've struggled the last couple of years. And so what was that conversation like with him? It was really good. He cares about, the coach cares about his players. So, it was a lot of, personal questions and things like that about my family and stuff. But then we got talking ball. He told me to get on the board and stand there and just show him the way I, coach linebackers, through drills and some of the stuff we did at Western Kentucky. And that's kind of how it went. And, just being around him, like I say, he's very detailed.
he sees things that you normally don't see. So I mean, that's another thing that helping me grow. As a coach, as a linebacker coach, and just being around him because he's very involved with the defense, as you know now, and very involved with the linebackers as well. So it's just been really good. Like I said, having him around, being around him, and also coaching those guys. Doing my job, but also learning from him. He does have a fire about him. I mean, he's passionate about playing good defense. So, and he's done that, in the past. So, I mean, we're excited about, this upcoming season, with the steps that we're taking now to get there.
So you mentioned your family, your wife, Shamira, 4 children. Your Twitter page has that picture of you and the family and what it means to you. When you go home after an intense day of practice, meeting, film, all of that, what's that like to go home and just have them all around you?
I mean, it's real good. I mean, I value family, a lot. I mean, I don't take that, faith, family, football thing for granted. I actually try to put it in that order. So man, when I'm not here, when I'm not at the building, I mean, I don't golf. I mean, I don't, hang out with friends as much as this job is demanding. So we already sacrificed a lot of time. So anytime I got free time, that's with my wife and kids. So it's really big just having my kids running to my arms, even my wife. Just. Getting home and being on my feet are. I mean, I try to tell my players that too, man. I know they're young and they got stuff going on in their life, certain stuff that kind of might affect them once they get on the field or in the meetings, but you got to kind of be where your feet are, If you want to practice, we got to strictly focus on practice. When you're in the meeting room, we got to strictly focus on what we got to get accomplished in the meeting room. Once you get out of that, once you get out of practice, okay, let's talk about all that stuff. And that's the same thing, I think, with me. Once I'm on that practice field, I'm in the meeting room over here. It's all about y'all and getting y'all better. Once I'm getting home, no matter what the problems or certain things that we're going through, I'll handle those things once I'm where my feet at. But when I'm home, I'm with them. They don't know daddy. They know daddy coaches, but they don't know all of the ins and outs of coaching. So when they come home, they just want to be with me, and laugh, play, and do those type of things.
Jamar, if you don't mind, I'm going to read this. This is from your Twitter page that you put up, pinned at the top, and it was very impressive. I always dreamed of having a family like this. It's a picture of your wife and your 4 children. I do my best to lead by example, an example for youth who come from communities like mine. Show them black men can be good husbands and dads and take pride in it. It's not easy, but worth it. A blessing I don't take for granted. That is very powerful. And I was very impressed by that. And you're right. And how much does that mean to you for you to be a role model for others to look up to?
That means a lot because I come from a single parent home. My dad was in my life. I don't want to put that out there. But I grew up with me, my mom, and my 3 sisters in the household. So, I was the man of the house at a young age. And then didn't really see like a father figure like in the household with his with his family, So that was big with me. I always dreamed of having a family, being a husband, being a father, and not just and not taking that for granted, like being there, like actually like being that husband that's there for his wife mentally, spiritually, and physically. The same thing with my kids as well. So I don't take that for granted. I try to be an example, for my sisters. Like I said, I grew up in a household, with, so being an example for them, being an example for the kids, like I said, that come from communities like me that might not have that example, but hopefully, they can look to me and I'm doing a good enough job the way they can be like, okay, I can be a good husband. I can be a good father. Not saying it's easy. It's hard, being a good husband, good father. But I think with you following the Lord, you following Jesus. I mean, I think it's a path worth taking, and I think he'll help you along the way.
Was there a time when you were growing up, when you were right there, that you could have made a decision that was one that came back to haunt you, and you were able to always stay on the right side, or was it tough?
Yeah, well, it was tough. Like I say, it was. Like, I tried to wear everything. Like, I told you what my goal was and my dreams. So it was kind of, I tried to put everything to a filter, man. If it felt like it was going to mess, me trying to get where I want to get it, I didn't do it. So that kind of helped me out a lot. And then I just saw how my mom worked like 2 or 3 jobs, so it was just like, man, like she's already struggling. So why would I go do this or go do that, or act like this in school to have more problems, have her having to worry about it. No, I just want her to be proud of me, proud of the young man I'm becoming, and that might help ease, the stress and being exhausted all the time. Just seeing her son like doing good in school, doing good on the football field, and staying out of trouble. So that kind of was my mindset. I thank God for that mindset because I had it at a young age as far as like operating like that.
Jamar Cheney, inside linebackers coach at Baylor, with us. Last year, the defense struggled fitting the run. How do you change it? Obviously, talent, personnel, scheme, etc. What did you see, and what do you see now? What are you guys working on during spring practices?
Just working on, you always work on the fundamentals. I think blocking, block destruction, change, tackling, all that stuff will improve every day. I mean, even if you just out there playing 7-on-7. So just trying to work on those things and constantly be a team that can just line up out there and play base defense and be able to operate. And that just comes with, working the fundamentals. You got to stop the run, you got to be able to get on blocks. I mean, we can fit everything up, but eventually you got guys that yell blocks, make tackles in the open field, So just constantly, preaching those things and making sure guys are playing with high effort, high energy, building confidence in these guys that we can go out here and we can play really, really, really good defense here at Baylor. And that's what we plan on doing.
You're working with players, and you hope all of them come back, but it's a weird time. And those relationships, do you feel like that will help quite a bit with making sure that you don't spend time with players or 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden they're gone and you have new 3 or 4 coming in?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but I think it's how you attack it. I'm very honest and upfront with my guys in my position room, so I kind of, and it goes both ways. Coaches move a lot too.
Yep.
So I kind of tell my guys, I'm gonna always be up in front with y'all. Y'all be up in front with me, so I don't want to find out nothing on social media, nothing like that. And it's the same way with my guys at Wills Config. I mean, they probably knew that I was. They knew before I even took the job that I was going where I was going and what I was going for. And then they knew before it got out. They almost knew before, I told the head coach at Western Kentucky, just because that's the kind of relationship that I had with them. Like, you're going to hear it from me, So that's the kind of same respect I respect back from my players. Like, if you thinking something, we need to sit down and talk about it. But before any decision is made, we need to talk about it, sit down and make sure you let me know, what's going on, and I'm not just finding out, from anybody else, And I think that's been good for me as far as like with my players, just building that type of relationship where they trust me with that, and vice versa, they trust me as well. I trust them as well.
What was your life and experience as a National Football League player and a veteran? I mean, that's just one out of a minuscule amount of people that even have that opportunity, and you did.
I mean, it was great. I mean, I enjoyed it. My first NFL game was actually my first NFL game that I played in was the first game I ever went to. So yeah, it was awesome, man. A great experience. Meet good people. You get to do something you've been dreaming to do. You've been working to do all your life, and to see those things come true, man. It is just a blessing from God, and I'm truly blessed to be able to say, something that I dreamed of as a child, I actually accomplished it, and actually, played a couple of years in the NFL. So I'm truly blessed to be able to tell that story,
Jamar, thanks for your time. Jamar Cheney, Baylor inside linebackers coach on 365 Sports. So on Friday, I'm going to have a procedure to help alleviate, we hope, some of the pain, the aches, the chronic thing that I've had for about a year in my lower back. And what kickstarted this was Dr. Rob Maxey, an Ideal MRI. I had an MRI at 21 and also in 22 around my lower back, and both of them were almost identical, but they wanted an update. The doctors wanted an update. So on Friday, I will be getting a procedure, and the MRIs that I had at Ideal MRI are so clear and so precise and so good that they were able to use them and also save me time rather than having to schedule an MRI and do it again. I was able to get in front of a specialist pretty quickly. So I can't thank them enough. And what Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff do for you, for me, for anyone that needs an MRI, wherever it is in your body, whether it's a muscle or a ligament or something else, they do an incredible job. One, you can contact them. Your doctor needs to, of course, be the one that recommends it. Then you get an MRI. And then they'll also get the images and a report back to you in the portal for you and your doctor very, very soon after you've had the MRI. I've had them, in fact, 3 or 4 hours later, or however long it takes to create the images. Ideal MRI also can save you. It saved me a ton of money. The average MRI is $1,100. Theirs is $497 or less every single time. They have a beautiful office inside of a building in the Central Texas Marketplace and a state-of-the-art MRI imaging machine. Dr. Rob Maxey, an Ideal MRI, just on the southern part of I-35 in Waco, inside the Central Texas Marketplace at idealmri.com.
Carry On Solutions is a full-service IT management service provider and provides professional services for businesses servicing clients in the U.S. and globally. They are authorized partners with Microsoft, Quest, Veeam, NetApp, HP Enterprise, and Cisco Duo. Whether you are outsourcing IT services, merging companies, or wanting to tackle cybersecurity challenges, contact Carry On Solutions. We are IT. Call or email Dave at 832-437-0138 or sales at Carry On Solutions. That's CARRION Solutions.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
This 4 o'clock hour, we start with Robert Alvin, sideline reporter, analyst for Oklahoma State football, has his own show, and he joins us on 365 Sports. Robert, thank you very much. It's been a while. We appreciate the fact you're on with us, and, of course, we're going to start checking in with a lot of different people multiple times in the next month. So what is the biggest storyline with Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State, whether it's a topic or a storyline of a position entering or now where they are at this time?
I think the biggest is, what are you going to do with all this experience? I mean, when you return, they went back and looked at any player that started 4 or more games last year and is returning. And they have, on defense, they have 11 of those. On offense, they have 10 of them. So that's 21 guys on your 22-man starting lineup that have started at least 4 games in the last year. Most of them more than that. Then they have a lot of guys that maybe didn't start that many games, but they played a lot of football. That's been a constant theme. Yesterday was our second time to talk to Coach Gundy since practice started, and one of the first questions was, how is this different with all these guys? And he said, well, the good thing is we don't have to go back and do a lot of base stuff, and there's the recall by the players has been excellent. So they're just kind of, it's almost like when you take accounting 101, and unless you've really mastered 101, you can't go to accounting 202 and 303 and so on. This is a team that, your quarterback's in his 7th year. There are a bunch of 6-year guys with the COVID still, especially on the offensive line. Corner, a guy from the Waco area, Corey Black.
Yep.
I think this is his 6th year. And then you had a lot of 5th-year guys. So 5th, 6th, and even a couple of 7th-year guys. And you know what? Here's the thing, Smokey. I've seen this backfire. I've seen guys just be in college too long, and they get bored with it, and it kind of backfires when you think, God, we can't miss with this group, and then they kind of fall flat. I've kind of been looking for that. Haven't seen it. These guys come out to practice every day excited. Bowman's a great example. He dropped about 10 pounds in the off season, and I was standing on one end of the field with our president's husband, Darren Strum, yesterday, and he looked down there and he goes, dang, Bowman looks like he's throwing the ball stronger. He's got a stronger arm. And one of the strength guys kind of leaned in and said, he's stronger everywhere. So that's a good sign when maybe the oldest guy on your team, and, I know what Bowman wants. He wants to go to Frisco next year to that pro day and show off and have a chance maybe to keep playing. So everybody seems to be engaged, and Mike Gundy seems to be happy, and the hope is that will continue, and you won't see a backfire of guys getting bored with being in college too long.
By the way, on Bowman, how much of it actually can also be a flak jacket on his ribs that sometimes makes him look a little bit bigger? Or does he wear one?
He wears one. Yeah, that may be a little bit, but even this is funny. Last week we had our first session with Mike Gundy. He was asked about Bowman's conditioning, and he goes, when he came to us last year, he was a little soft. It's not often you hear a head coach call a player soft, but as a quarterback and as a former quarterback, Gundy's a little harder on those guys. If they're not tip-top, if they're not ready to go, he's pretty brutally honest about where they are. And he said, hey, last year, Bowman was rusty, and he was a little soft. And he was still the best guy because of all of his experience. Now you're getting, kind of a Bowman 2.0. He's past the inactivity at Michigan. The rust has been kicked off. And even Bowman, talking to the media yesterday, talked about how he can move in the pocket better. He goes, last year I watched tape. There were a lot of times I threw the ball away or I threw a pick when I could have taken a couple of steps up in the pocket and lengthened the play and had a really good chance to do something with it. So he's gone back and analyzed everything he did last year and coming back. Here's the thing, too. You don't want the young guys behind all these old guys. If it gets their turn, that's another area you got to keep in check. And in the quarterback room, there's a great example. Garrett Rangel he played 9 games as a freshman and did not play many last year. And then you've got a freshman, redshirt freshman, Zane Flores, that guys, unless I'm just stupid, and maybe I am, this guy's got, he's got next level ability. With the arm, with the ability to run around. He was a 2-time All-State state championship quarterback at Gretna, Nebraska. And I know that they tried really hard to get him off the Oklahoma State commitment list and couldn't do it. And it's time for him to he's Bowman's roommate on the road. It's time for him to get some action and to see what he's like in a game. So that's something everybody's going to be looking for.
But behind Alan Bowman, like you said, how confident are they with those guys? Because, as strong as he is, I know that everybody kind of holds his breath every time he gets hit because he's been injured quite a lot, Robert.
No, he had that history in Lubbock, and, he didn't play enough to get hurt at Michigan.
True.
Yeah, that's the honest truth.
Yeah.
He'll tell you that. He was very tough last year, so I think he's kind of within the program. He's shaking off that reputation. But, no, I think they feel really good. You've got a Rangel who was in the middle of that quarterback trio battle that started last season. And Rangel's having a good spring. And like I said, Zane Flores, he's a guy that's ready. It's time for him to at least get some time, some stick time out there. So I think they feel pretty good. They had an AJ Green from Arkansas, who was a kid from Tulsa Union. They weren't able to get when he came out of high school. They feel good about the depth there. Offensive line there's just a ton of guys. It's going to be interesting. Plus, that's the one area they took a transfer, and Isaiah Glass was a starter at Arizona State. He's going to start here. So, wide receiver, again, a lot of guys back. Presley's back. Rashad Owens. They're going to get Deshaun Stribling back, who probably is, the most gifted kid in that position group. Defense, it's the same thing. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches when it comes to experience and to proven ability. Now, like I said, everybody's got holding their breath. Does the culture stick together? Do the players stick together? And do you translate all the good stuff that adds up on paper to the kind of season? I know this, Mike Gundy, I can sense from him. I've been around him long enough. I can tell he's happy. He's fired up, and I think he feels like he's got a team that could be, if not his very best, certainly one of his best. And so now you just don't mess it up. Don't find a way to mess it up.
Robert, Ollie Gordon, obviously a big headliner returning, Doak Walker Award winner, a lot of accolades, had a lot of carries last year. How does he get better? How do you think that he can possibly improve, whether that's on the field, leadership? Where do you look as far as that goes? And how much of an emphasis do you think he will be, or will he have a bit more help? Just kind of how do you view Ollie Gordon's role moving into next season?
I just about did something that I'm glad I didn't. I was gonna try the April Fool's joke on you guys that was going around Stillwater on Monday. I even struck my radio show.
Oh no!
Some guy texted in and said, "So I hear Ollie Gordon's going in the portal," and I've got an older lady named Cowboy Kathy that listens to the show, and she called in tears. Ollie's not going in the portal. Tell me. That was. There were two April Fool's jokes Monday. Ollie Gordon going in the portal, which isn't going to happen. Believe me, he's the highest paid player on that team. And the other one was, did you hear Bill Self's coming back to Oklahoma State to finish his coaching?
I actually had that. I saw that. Yeah.
I was just about to ask you about that because Somebody said it on Twitter. It was like, Bill Self is in Stillwater. He's talking to Gundy, and really it was just to be about how close they can get on the money to Kansas. And it's like, dude, every time Oklahoma State is open, this comes up. It's not – he would be there. If he wanted to be in Stillwater, that's where he would be.
Yeah, he's had plenty of chances to be here. So, yeah, those were the two popular April Fool's jokes here Monday. But truth had been known. Steve Lutz was hired last Wednesday. That was kind of a long delay to get it announced, but he was hired last week. So I didn't fall on either of those. But to answer your question, AJ Green is the answer. And Ceci Valle, who is the freshman that played, really showed up a little bit in that UCF debacle because he played late in that one and did well, and then played late in the Texas Big 12 championship game, had some good carries. He's pretty good. He's a Jalen Warren, actually coached by the Jalen Warren's high school head coach. So they look very similar. They're both of the Tongan descent. And so that's encouraging. And then AJ Green, the transfer from Arkansas, because a lot of people wondered, why would a guy at Arkansas that's good enough to start some come to Stillwater to play behind Ollie Gordon? Well, Mike Gundy doesn't want Ollie Gordon to carry the ball 30 times a game next year. He wants to knock those carries down to around 20. And he's told Ollie, you're going to carry the ball less, but don't be mad about it. We want you to get out of here with legs and with ability and with tread on your tires to go play, in the NFL. So that's it. They want AJ Green and Ceci both to get some action at running back and not force Ollie to be the workhorse.
I had a private or one of those direct messages from Homie 505.
Yeah, that was the one. Homie 505.
My sources told me that Bill Self is set to speak with Gundy this afternoon. Unclear on specifics. The move to Oklahoma State would likely result in a moderate pay cut for Self. Oh, my God. I said, that's so stupid, it might be true. Who knows anymore? But I said, no, that's no way that's going to happen.
Well, hey, it's easy to fool people in Stillwater on that because there's so many Oklahoma State basketball fans that they go to bed every night, and when they get on their knees and say their prayers, one of the lines in there is, please bring Bill Self back home. That happens quite a bit.
Robert, and no offense to Oklahoma State at all, and I'm sure he still loves his alma mater, but you don't leave the basketball mecca just on a whim. It's just not what you do.
It took Roy Williams having North Carolina and those ties.
That's it. Yeah. That's the only time you do that. Yeah.
Yeah. If Bill Self is coming back to Oklahoma, it will be Oklahoma City and the Thunder. And right now, based on the success there, that job is not open. So now Bill's good friends. He's good friends with the GM there because he's really tied to that family of the San Antonio Spurs. But I don't even think Bill longs to coach. I think at one time he thought about the NBA. I think Bill's where he's going to finish, and he's already in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, I don't think we'll see Bill Self for any functions here other than reunions and alumni functions.
Robert, we do know who the guy, and it's not Bill Self, will be leading the charge for Cowboys basketball moving forward after the firing of Mike Boynton. Steve Lutz, what has been the reaction? What was your reaction? And what do you make of the new era of Cowboys basketball under his leadership?
Well, because the name's not Bill Self, there's some people that are unhappy, and some people were disenchanted because of how long the search took. But no, I like him. He touches the Iba Sutton tree with Danny Casper. He was with him at Incarnate Word and then at Texas State. I know Danny's career didn't end great. He's an old friend of mine. I called the Midwestern State games when he was the assistant for Gerald Stockton in Wichita Falls right when I got out of school. And we used to hang out at an Irish bar called O'Phelan's. Good days. But no, because of Danny Casper, because he coached for Matt Doherty, because he coached for Greg McDermott, because he coached for Matt Painter, and that gets him in the Sutton tree because Painter played and coached for who's the longtime Gene Cady, who was a longtime assistant for Sutton at Arkansas. So he touches those. That's good. I talked to Randy Lee, the voice there at Western Kentucky, on my show yesterday, and he said, Robert, you guys are getting an old school guy. I mean, he kicked a really good player off the team last year in his first year at Western because the guy didn't obey the rules. Well, I mean, I like that. And you know, discipline, I think, has been lacking in Oklahoma State basketball. So this guy's going to come in. I think the other thing I like is he's been around a lot of people that can coach the post position, even like to run their offense through the post. That's something I'd love to see. And there's a good, if he's in the portal, but if he's patient and talks to him and he stays, Brandon Garrison is a kid. In fact, I think he had a pretty good game against Baylor in that conference opener this year. Brandon Garrison is a guy that could be a really big-time post player. He was a McDonald's All-American and all the stars and ESPN rankings and all that. I think that Steve Lutz could get the most out of him. So the biggest thing I like is old school, and that's what's used to describe him. I'm looking forward to seeing some old school coaching at Oklahoma State.
I got to read this chat from Barry Crawford. Gundy was asked the other day, what do you get with a 7-year quarterback? And he said an AARP membership.
Yeah, he did.
What is the worst, not worst, what is the one or the largest concern, no matter what they do the rest of spring, that they must perhaps look at in the transfer portal? Football, I'm talking football
better
here. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they'll have to do anything in the transfer portal. They've got to get better defensively. And I mean, this isn't all on Brian Nardo. I think Nardo will be better in his second year as a defensive coordinator. We saw that with Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles' first year was not very good. But if you go back and look really hard last year at some of the defensive numbers, they weren't good, guys. This team did a good job of forcing turnovers. They did a decent job on third down, and they did an excellent job on fourth down. And that's really what kept them in the game defensively, because this defense gave up a lot of yards, running and passing. So you've got playmakers. You've got Nick Martin back, who is, speaking of old school, he's an old school type linebacker. You've got Colin Oliver, Justin Kirkland, Colin Clay, Cody Walterside decided to come back. Those are all defensive linemen. Got a lot of guys in the secondary, including Corey Black at a corner. So the key is whatever, and I think they're still going to run some odd man, some 3-man front, but I think you'll see some more 4. I think that's one of the things they looked at in the offseason. But whatever you see, you've got to see a better performance on defense. And I think that is absolute the biggest concern. When you've got the leading rusher in the conference and the nation returning, and you've got plenty of receivers and an old quarterback and an offensive line that can protect him, then you got to stop people. And they didn't do a very good job of that last year. OSU was involved in a lot of shootouts, a lot of games that went down to the wire, and they were fortunate enough they were able to win them. But you guys know as well as I do, you play a lot of those, eventually the odds catch up with you, and instead of winning in double overtime with BYU, you get beat. Or instead of winning with a big play at the end of of course you don't have to worry about playing OU, but you get beat on a play like that late in the game. Defense has got to get better, and your margin has got to get better, and that's the biggest concern for this team in spring.
Robert, it's great to have you, man. Inside knowledge, appreciate your time. And hope to see you. You going to Vegas with Big 12 Media Days?
Yeah, can you imagine that? I don't know if they should let all us Midwesterners loose in Vegas. That could be pretty dangerous.
We've already done a scouting trip, Robert.
We were
there
at
the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so
we were there. And we stayed away from downtown. We had an Airbnb about a 20-minute drive. I had to keep the degenerates, Emery, Garrett, and Paul off the streets, and it didn't work well at times. but can't wait. Did not. But can't wait.
That's going to get around the conference. That the Baylor group has already scouted Vegas for media day. So you guys may have to join Brett Yormark and be the travel guides for the Big 12 media event this year.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll give him all of what he needs. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Robert. Have a great rest of the spring, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
All right.
That's good stuff. Robert Allen, sideline reporter, analyst for Oklahoma State football, and we'll have Chris Level, who does that for Texas Tech, around the corner.
Yeah, sounds like it's going to take some proving for Steve Lutz to win over the Cowboys fan base, especially when your expectations for, I guess, some people were Bill Self. I missed most of that. I hate that for those who got their hopes up because I don't know how realistic that ever was. So, yeah, anybody besides that was going to be a disappointment unless you brought, like, Coach K out of retirement or something. But Ollie Gordon coming back, I was very curious because he had a lot of wear on him. It was kind of like if he wasn't running the football, you didn't really know exactly what you were going to get. Alan Bowman had some moments of good, some moments of bad. They've got some good skill guys, but it was pretty much the Ollie Gordon show on offense last year. So good to hear that they're definitely planning on taking some off of his plate as he returns. And just interesting to hear Robert say the highest paid player on the team because we're just so, it's just part of the deal now, and that's not a surprise whatsoever. But they've got top 20 returning production. We'll see what that looks like post-spring because there's going to be more transfer portal stuff after the spring. But they bring a great nucleus back. You hear the concern there is obviously, do you bring too much back? So we'll see how that works out for them in the long run. But I think you definitely have high hopes compared to teams that are rolling into this season feeling like they have no shot whatsoever to play for a title. Oklahoma State definitely should be in the conversation and in the mix.
Yep, and again, thumped like a lot of people were by UT in the championship game. That's some licking their wounds there, but they got there. And with Ollie Gordon, that's interesting. He might end up with a higher per average yards per carry because of less carries, but Fresh hopefully remains healthy. But when they need him for 28 to 35 carries a game, we know. Who was it that said this, that he's one of the few running backs that when he hits the line of scrimmage after taking a handoff, he's already at full speed. And a lot of times maybe arm tackles or whatever just aren't going to get in his way. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Chris Level, sideline reporter for Texas Tech. And we'll also ask him about the story that was being reported today out of Lubbock, that Baron Morton being shut down preemptively. He is their man at quarterback, that and more. And this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. What is today? Wednesday. You have an hour and a half. Their store's open until 6. If you want this weekend to have live crawfish, a crawfish boil, if you need shrimp, you need the potatoes, the sausage, the seasoning, all of what you need for a crawfish boil, they have it. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, the Bauer family, full-service butcher shop, full-service bakery. But $4.99 a pound right now for 30-pound sacks bags of live crawfish. These are some alpha crawfish. These are some dudes now. And you have what you need. 1, 2, 5 sacks, whatever you need, bags. Call before 6 o'clock today. Drop by their location before 6 o'clock today. Get your order in. And then Friday after 4, you can go by and pick up what you need. And again, on top of that, they have what you need when it comes to sausage, the potatoes, the shrimp boil, what you have. Also, if you want to throw some crab legs in there, they have that too. Waco Custom Marketplace, $4.99 a pound, 30-pound sacks and bags of crawfish, live crawfish, at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
A Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We will be touring quite a bit. Those who we depend on when it comes to their thoughts about the Big 12 and spring football. And Chris Level, Texas Tech, RedRaidersports.com, but also a broadcaster for Texas Tech Athletics and Radio, joins us on 365 Sports. Chris, thank you very much. We saw the note. Baron Morton shut down, and when I first saw that, I was like, uh-oh, is this a preemptive strike by Joey?
Yeah, that just came out about, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Baron had talked to the media before the first practice, I guess, and, he played through that injury basically the entire time that he dealt with it. He came in for Tyler Shuck in the West Virginia game, and the second series, he took a shot and hurt that AC joint. And so he played through it the remainder of the season. And so what you saw Baron Morton last year was just not him anywhere near 100%. And I think at the beginning of spring, he kind of said, yeah, it still bothered me a little bit, because they just tell you that it takes a while, it's just time. And and when you're the starting quarterback, you're going to throw on it a lot, and I guess maybe it's just bothering him a little bit more, and so they just decided, let's not be stupid here. Let's just shut him down. Plus, you've got some guys behind him that I guess would benefit from these extra reps. But yeah, it's not, you don't want to have to read that you have to shut your guy down and all that. So it's not, can't say that it's great news, but without a game for another 6 months or so. It could be worse, but I don't think he's re-injured or anything. I think they're just trying to let it heal up and just shutting him down. So, was not expecting that though today.
Chris, what do you think this means for the backup battle there? Who has the edge? Who do you think, or is this something that may even continue on into the season?
It's a great question. They had, the year before they had, Shuck and Barron, they had Donovan Smith, quite the collection of QBs, and they used them, They used them all. And I think Zach Kitley, when you get some of these injuries last year, he really missed the Donovan Smith component, the bigger athletic, we can run some QB power with you and do some different things. And I think, Zach realized in the middle of last year, like, I always want to have that component on our team. And so they went and got a kid named Cameron Brown out of a D2 school in Georgia. He was freshman of the year at a smaller school. He's about 6'2", 230. And I would have told you that no matter what, he was going to play it in some way, whether it's just packages or on special teams or gimmicky stuff or whatever. He's athletic enough and has got some wheels, and that they were going to find a way to utilize him no matter what. But this probably gives him a bit of a leg up on actually winning the backup job outright. And you've got Jake Strong, who started the game last year, and then Will Hammond, who was a lead 11 guy that I know that they're very high on. But again, he just got here, and so you just never know with those true freshmen. But yeah, that's the one positive, I guess, that you can look at from this standpoint, is like all those three guys are going to get all the reps with the ones and the twos and things like that. And maybe it helps you jumpstart that race a little bit.
Chris, I really thought that Taj Brooks would be gone, and then he makes the announcement, hey, I'm going to be back, which was obviously huge news, and still feel like he got a lot of attention, but probably not as much as he deserved for the type of year that he had. Are they just basically saying, hey, handle with care this spring because we already know what you can do? Or kind of how is that working with Taj Brooks, and just how big of a deal is that? But also, I guess, kind of in line with the quarterback question, what does that do for other young running backs?
I was as honestly as surprised as you were about his return. There's only so much tread on those running back tires, right? Mm-hmm. And they used him a lot. He had nearly 300 carries last year and was extremely durable, productive. He's not a perfect back. He doesn't have breakaway speed, but man, was he a bright spot and one of the top running backs in the country. And they weren't super explosive on offense, and yet people just couldn't tackle him easy. He just and he's an unbelievably great kid. And I think that with NIL and all the stuff that's out there, I think it's like, okay, do I take a chance on going undrafted and all those things, or do I, make the most of one more year in college, which is available to me? And so I think that's the option that he took. But yes, I guess the NBA term would be like load management. I mean, you know what he could do. You don't need to put him out there in spring football, and so, yeah, you've got a whole bunch of running backs, some younger, because you need to develop that because Taj will be gone after this next year. So you've got Cameron Valdez, who was his backup. There's a kid named Cam Dickey out of the Austin area that they're very high on that came in that played quarterback in high school, who's about 6'1", 220. That I think they're very excited about. Bryson Donnell out of Tyler, and Anquan Willis. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys right there. But again, I think you sort through that as well. And Taj is still around, and he's going through practices. But again, when it comes to contact, very, very minimal. And I think that there's no reason to put him in harm's way when you know how much he did for you, and you want to try to keep him good to go for the fall.
We asked Robert Allen about Ollie Gordon, who, of course, last year won all the awards and had a great run. Gundy is suggesting, and he's told Ollie Gordon that he's going to probably decrease his carries, or at least that's the plan. That doesn't mean he won't get a 35-carry game. But in the end, Taj Brooks had 5 more carries in one less game than Gordon. Is there any now he's a bowling ball, but also very, very athletic. Is there any thought about maybe giving him a breather on occasion?
1,000%. I think that's always and it's tricky for a coach, right? You say this, you have the intention of doing this. When push comes to shove, it's like, hey, you get out this series, and then everybody's looking at it like, okay, we're in a tight game, and like one of our best players is sitting over here on the sideline. But you have to make yourself do it, and you have to. Sometimes less is more from the standpoint of you get a better version of your good player by using them a bit less, and you keep them fresher for longer. And again, easier said than done. I've seen that conversation, over the years in a variety of sports, and it's just like it's hard to do. When it's like, oh man, it's 17-14, and here we are early in the third quarter, and we're going to keep him over here? Is that really what we're going to do? But you know, that's what they're saying right now. And I think it's smart because I think you keep him, fresher for longer and you get a better version of him if you can, do it. But it's going to come back to, does somebody emerge that they trust, that they can, lean on, that they can handle, pass pro. That's what Taj is so good at. He's just a well-rounded player because he doesn't get the quarterback killed. He's going to pick up a tough blitz, and that's what these young running backs. It's not just about carrying the ball. You got to be able to catch it. You got to be able to pick up blitzes, all those different things, and that's the tricky part for these guys that come out of high school or these younger running backs. Is that, in high school, they all get it handed to them, and they don't have to pick up a blitz from a 230-pound, end or linebacker that's coming full speed. That it's a collision, and you've got to be good at that. Otherwise, you're not going to play. They don't trust you to play. So that's what those guys are having to go through right now.
Chris, are you enamored with Micah Hudson yet, or is everybody? What's going on there?
Well, okay, I feel like we're sitting here talking about a whole bunch of guys that aren't going through spring because Micah Hudson, he had a minor knee procedure, just cleaning it up. I think he kind of dinged it up at one of those All-Star games in December, and when he got on campus, they looked at him and it's like, hey, we're going to go ahead and clean you up, and I think he's close to being good to go, but I think they're just going to hold him out for spring. So. We haven't seen him yet, and I will tell you though, they do have two guys that everybody is enamored with that came in, one from University of Florida and the other one came in from Washington State, Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas. I think Caleb Douglas is a guy that looks like he would go to the University of Florida. He's about 6'3", 190, can really, really run. Was a starter before he got hurt early last season. And then I think Josh Kelly was about a 1,000-yard receiver for Washington State last year. So, and then you add Micah Hudson to that, I think they feel a lot better about their receiving group. They just weren't explosive last year. It was hard to watch at times. They're spoiled around here offensively in some ways, but they couldn't stretch the field, and I think they wanted to go try to fix it. And guys like Micah and Josh Kelly and Caleb Douglas to try to help them alleviate some of those concerns.
Yeah, Chris just said he looks like a guy that went to the University of Florida. In my circles, that's not a compliment. That's usually a dig, in the Tallahassee circle. But but I know he made it one.
You know what I mean? It's like I get I do the sideline stuff for the radio broadcast. And it's like over the years. You get down there on the field, and like when you play UT or in Oklahoma or you're in a bowl game versus LSU, you just look at you're like, oh my, these guys look different than the group that I've been around all year, and he looks kind of, it's like when they got the kid from Texas A&M a couple years ago that was the top pick, Tyree Wilson. I'm like, oh yeah, this is not something we see a lot of around here. 6'2", 6'7", 280, and again, he's a measurables guy, but that's what Caleb Douglas is. So that's what I meant by that. Sorry if that was confusing.
Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Paul's just a hater in some ways.
I just take any chance I get to take a shot at Gainesville, Florida.
Exactly. Yeah. Chris, you mentioned there's a lot of guys we've talked about that aren't even practicing this spring. You have mentioned though, like the Caleb Douglases that are a part of the conversation. So for those of us that aren't boots on the ground, kind of the general observation, what would you say that we haven't hit on that is something of utmost importance or something that is of high interest as far as Texas Tech this spring?
Yeah, the biggest storyline around here is their offensive line, and I think that it's been average over the last 3 to 5 years, and it's been a big problem. Part of why it was such an unbelievable year for Taj Brooks because the line just wasn't great. It was okay. They just switched offensive line coaches about 2 or 3 months ago. Clay McGuire, former Texas Tech player and coach and all that, he comes from Washington State, and he's now in charge of the offensive line. And they just needed to get a lot better there. And so they went out, in late December and early January when everybody start going through the portal, and they brought in what they feel like are 3 starters, one from, Memphis. You had one from Toledo and one from Middle Tennessee. All are seniors. They're all 1-year guys. You're probably going to look at those are the 2 starting guards and then a left tackle that they brought in here. And so that's really the focus. That offensive line has got to be better. And they all know it. And we could talk about Barron and health and Taj and stretching the field and all that, but that group up front, if they're going to take the next step and really contend for a conference championship, that group has to be better. And they knew it, and they were trying to. They've recruited really well. The problem is that these offensive linemen that they've got in here, the oldest group that they're responsible for they're just now redshirt freshmen, okay? And then you've got the true freshmen they brought in here and all that, but they're just not quite ready, so they're trying to bridge the gap. So that's really storyline 1 and 1A, if you ask me. That's so much focus on that group. And they're going to be a bit younger on defense. There's probably just a general youth component on defense, because the fun part about having those 6-year seniors that come back like you did last year, and like Rabbit, who's going to get drafted, and Jalen Hutchings and Tony Bradford, those D tackles. You had a whole bunch of guys that elected to come back here. You're starting corners and Rashad Williams, Malik Dunlap, that were 6th-year guys and using that COVID year. It's a lot of fun when you have them. When they all leave, it's like, woo, that's a lot of experience to just walk out the door. And so there's a lot of youth on that side of the ball. Now, they're faster, a bit deeper, but just not a lot of experience. But offensive line and just general youth on defense are probably two of the main storylines that we've got going on here.
Was that youth in the offensive line also part of Clay McGuire coming back?
Yeah, I don't know if everything was working on that position. I just think they and the timing of that was a bit odd. If I'm being honest, David, when they made that switch, it was about a month before spring football started, and I just think they wanted to hit the reset button and wanted to, bring in somebody. Because the thing about Clay is pretty fascinating. He obviously he was Mike Leach's very first commitment. Back in 2000. So he's got time, and then he played for Mike, and then obviously coached with Mike at Tech, at Washington State, and some different places. But he's also coached with Lincoln. He's coached with Jake Spavital. He's coached with, just a variety of different offensive minds. And I think it's pretty fascinating because everybody's got a bit of a different take on some of this spread out offense and all those things. So he's kind of seen a bunch, and he's also coached offensive line, he's coached running backs, and he's coached tight ends. So when you have him coach an offensive line, he's got a good grasp of other positions and how it all is supposed to work and all those things. And I just think that they wanted to make a change there. So, I think that, because that's part of the spring deal too, is like he may have a different view of where certain guys fit compared to what Stephen Hamby did, and he may want to move some pieces around, or let's try this, or let's look at this in a different way. And, with a fresh set of eyes. So that's kind of, but known Clay for a long time, good people, and he's a good old West Texas boy.
One other thing, I had a question in the chat. With Marion Horn and Jordan Sanford, I think they both were highly rated, recruited by Joey, redshirted. You mentioned those like 5th and 6th year players. What about that part of the defense? You mentioned it's going to be young in some places. Is that part of that spot right there?
Yeah, Mo Horn are probably in line to start at one of the corner spots. He was basically like your 3rd or 4th corner last year, but younger, and so now it's his time. And then Jordan Sanford and Brendan Jordan were also two guys that played quite a bit at safety and nickel and some different things last year. And they actually played quite a bit, both of those other two kids. And now they're definitely in line to start, but they've got a year under their belt of experience, and they were – two of the only really freshmen that played it all last year. They played, I think, mainly in every game. So, you can now lean on those guys, and those guys are now experienced sophomores, if you will. But yeah, that's part of this recruiting that Joey's been a part of that I think they're really excited about. But, those two names are certainly guys that are going to play and play a lot.
I have to ask another chat question. We have a bunch of Texas Tech fans that watch. Ask him about the terrible defensive play calling. How can we overcome that? Is that a thing?
Well, anytime you don't create enough turnovers or wreak enough havoc or whatever, you wonder, are you being too conservative? Do we not, are we not blitzing enough? Are we, and I think they had a general Tim DeRuyter is a really good coordinator. He's been around a long time. He's coached at a variety of places. He's been a head coach. 2 years ago, they were a nightmare to deal with. They're causing all kinds of havoc. Well, that's what happens when you have a guy like this, the 7th pick in the draft or whatever Tyree Wilson was, and you've got some different things. But they did not, admittedly, create enough turnovers last year, and they didn't get enough takeaways, and they pride themselves on the whole take 3 thing. That that's the goal, 3 turnovers every game, and they fell way short of that, and they knew it. And so you got to get faster on the edge. You've got to create more pressure on the quarterback. All those things. So yeah, I mean, whether that's play calling or personnel or a combination of both, that's something that Tim would tell you. Yeah, we need to get better there. But they dealt with a variety of injuries last year. Jacob Rodriguez, probably their best interior linebacker, kind of their quarterback of the defense. He got hurt in the Wyoming game and then missed the bulk of the year. They had to move some different pieces around. And so, but it's that's just college football. You're going to deal with injuries, but there's certain guys that didn't play that kind of put them in a bit of a bind to not put their best foot forward. But that's the breaks. Nobody feels sorry for you, but yeah, creating more takeaways is certainly something they need to get better at.
Chris, thank you. We took you for a long segment. Thanks for your time. Chris Level, RedRaidersports.com, also a broadcaster for Texas Tech Athletics and radio, football, and basketball too. Texas Tech with they got some frustrating injuries to kind of deal with, and the Baron Morton thing was not just being preemptive. It was, he's trying to get through yet some issues and hopefully be healthy by the time they get to September, August, if earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's April 3rd. So, I'll worry about it when it's July, Big 12 media days, and they're talking about Baron Morton's not practicing the entire time or something. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. I do think it's odd. I think it was odd to make the announcement. But I guess if people are going to be paying close attention and they're wondering why the starting quarterback's out there, you're just preemptively cutting off the chatter. So it makes sense from that standpoint, but clearly there were some people that were caught off guard by that. That is one concern. The major concern that you have with Baron Morton is just his availability based on what we've seen so far. But we've seen Will Hammond up close and personal. We saw him at Hutto. He's a really good player and excited to see what he eventually does. But Taj Brooks coming back, I think, changes kind of the perception of them, because had they lost him, then I think you're really going like, all right, now it's on Baron Morton and it's on some new guys, and it still is. But having Taj Brooks back is a tremendous safety blanket to start off with, and he's a great player who's got a lot of yards to run for this season, much like he did last year, and hopefully he'll get a bit more of attention for it because he deserves to. But, they just got to shore up, some spots that have kind of been the same old spots for the last couple of years, offensive line being one of those. And if they can do that, then I think on paper they've got a really solid team. I think if things break right for them, then they're a team that could be in the mix for creating a little chaos in the Big 12. And if, injury bug bites, then I don't know where that leaves them. But it's also hard to – we're kind of giving the check-in right now, but also I'm also thinking in the back of my mind of like, we're going to have to redo this again probably after spring because of the transfer portal again. And like, who knows who you lose, right? But I think that they know who their core is and who they'll have. And it's a pretty good core, just so long as they clean up a couple spots.
Taj Brooks, the only game in which he was, I would say, contained was the opening game, that double overtime game against Wyoming. He had 11 carries for 39 yards. But everyone else, even in the blowout loss to Texas, 95 yards, had 182 against UCF, 170 against Baylor. He had 25, 30, 33 carries in a game. He's really, really good. A good bowl game against Cal, 22 carries, 98 yards and a score, and is an absolute, like trying to tackle a steer with his balance and also low to the ground, and he is good. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear what's going on with Sonny Dykes and TCU, Steven Johnson, and more. Next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. April, of course, has begun. And I had the opportunity, Ted Teague called me and said, hey, we want you guys to drive a couple of these fast cars, the Challenger and the Charger. I turned my Challenger back into the dealership yesterday and back into what I was driving that I bought from Alan Samuels back in the summer of 2020, a Ford Explorer pre-owned car. And, man, it was unbelievable. Paul is still driving the green Charger.
I love it.
And the world is still safe.
Hey, look, I'm a muscle car guy now. What can I say? I talked to Ted today, and I said, when do you want this car back? And he said, you bring it back tomorrow. And I said, by tomorrow, you mean ever? And he said, no, you probably need it tomorrow. But it's been great. And, look, if you're a muscle car guy, like, you got to check this thing out. It just hums.
Yep. The only concern is the fact that I have every time I drove by anybody or they drove up next to me at a stoplight, they wanted to take on the Challenger. I'm very disciplined and patient behind the wheel of a car.
Look, I'm going to show you how old my brain is compared to my actual age. I just play Jan and Dean songs in my head, and I don't do it. But
there you go. There's Paul's car. You saw the Challenger. Unbelievable. They've got them at their dealership right now, along with Ram trucks and Jeep Cherokees and Wagoneers and more. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat Loop, 340 and east of 84 in Waco with General Manager CEO Ted Teague.
Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com with me, David Smoak. And tell you what, you guys keep rolling along. You do have yet another date, correct, for an online and live auction?
Yes, our next online and live auction will be Thursday, April 25th.
We've discussed how this has been unique and how people have reacted to it. Has that momentum continued as you've done more?
Yes, it's kind of half and half. We'll have a good amount of people there that are from the area, and then we have probably 40% that we ship out, and everybody that I've delivered locally to has talked about how much fun they had, and they want to know when the next one's going to be. We've gotten great feedback from the people that we've shipped to. They're all just so excited about this event, and they can't wait for the next one to happen.
Premium grade East Texas beef. Customers don't have to go out and buy their beef. TexasBeefHouse.com, from their family and their ranch to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely. And I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports, we start this 5 o'clock hour. Paul will wrap up the hour a little bit later on, about 45 minutes, with his top five. We're joined by Stephen Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, covering TCU. We saw at the Big 12 Pro Day up in Frisco, Sonny Dykes and a couple of others that were there watching the festivities, and thanks for your time, Stephen. So what is the couple of things in particular, besides the obvious, that TCU needs to accomplish during spring football?
Well, I think the biggest thing for them is going to be emphasizing and installing this new defense under Andy Avalos, which has done, I think it's made a really strong first impression. They've gone through 6 practices so far. They're banged up on offense. No Josh Hoover. Got a starting receiver out. Guys like Savion Woods or John Paul Richardson have kind of been low managed, basically. So I think the biggest thing right now is you want to continue to see the defense play the way it's been playing, them installing more packages, different type of schemes and whatnot. So I think getting the defense with a head start would be the key, and you really want to get out of spring without any major injuries on offense, I believe.
So how do they get better without their starting quarterback in there?
Well, I think the good thing for them, at least on offense, is this is an opportunity, I think, for a lot of younger guys. There are a lot of guys in rotation right now, receiver guys that were maybe second or third team last year. So for me, I think it's been refreshing. Well, it has to be refreshing for the players, I think, hey, man, you got your opportunity. You're going up against the first-team defense, second-team defense. If you want to prove yourself, now is the time. They even had guys like walk-ons like Keegan Cunningham making plays in the spring and things like that. So I think for the offense, it's just about developing those younger guys. And the main thing is trying to find some type of synergy on the offensive line. I think that's the biggest question mark aside from the defense as a whole. And on the defense, I mean, those guys have been flying around with the football. They look good. They don't look like a team that has a first-year defensive coordinator. So for them, it's just about getting tighter with chemistry. Offense, I think it's about developing some of those younger guys that had smaller roles last year.
Stephen, what's the biggest difference from what Andy Avalos is trying to accomplish compared to what they were doing with Joseph Gillespie?
Oh, everything. Everything. You know, I want to say, like, Coach Gillespie obviously is a brilliant football mind, knows more football. He's forgotten more football than I know, but yeah. I think it's night and day what TCU is now doing. I don't want to get too much in the jargon, man, but I do get excited seeing the scheme. We're seeing more of a 4-2-5 look. Maybe you could even argue a bit of a 3-2-6 look where he keeps your three standard defensive linemen, and he hit that fourth edge rusher is kind of that hybrid. Different teams have different names for him: Buck, Star, Jack, whatever you want to call them. Basically, they have that fourth edge rusher now. And now he's gone from a 3-linebacker defense to a 2-linebacker defense. So I think his defense, they send guys from everywhere. Corner blitzes, nickel blitzes, safety blitzes. They're doing stunts. I don't think they did any stunts last year on the defensive line. And even these last couple practices, they have a dime package, the 4-1-6 that's been causing a lot of havoc. So there's a lot more creativity. There's a lot more havoc. And I think TCU's defense will be in more positions. They're going to take more chances, of course. But I think they'll be in more position to actually make plays as opposed to just reacting to them.
Stephen, we had Jared Wiley, of course, veteran tight end who's headed to the NFL. Well, it appears he will, but he was with us at the Pro Day. We sat down with him, and we brought up a lot of the players they lost after the team that went to the national championship game. And he said he didn't think it was a lack of talent on the team last year, that he thought there was some leadership issues, and he was one of them. That, of course, being a fifth or sixth year guy. Did you think that it was mainly talent, or was it what he was mentioning?
No, I think it was definitely leadership. Honestly, if you go off 247 Sports as the team talent composite rankings, where they basically stack up your last 4 recruiting classes and rank the teams based on that. I want to say TCU's ranking was significantly higher last year than it was the year they made it to the national championship game. But you didn't have a Matt Duggan. You didn't have a Steve Avila. You didn't have a Quentin Johnson. You didn't have a Trey Hodges-Thomason. And I think even though you had guys like Josh Newton and you had guys like Andrew Coker trying to step up, there was definitely a big void in leadership. And I think that kind of bared out with how TCU struggled. 2 years ago, they were one of the best teams in the country in those one-score games. They always made a play. The defense could have been giving up 35 points. I bet you in the fourth quarter they're going to get a stop. They're going to sack. They're going to get a pick. And then last year, obviously, their fortune in one-score games completely flipped to the other end. Some of that is luck, but I think a lot of that is just kind of that leadership, how we saw Matt Duggan just put the team on his back, how we saw Trey Hodges-Thomason always come up with that key interception in the second half. So it was definitely leadership in my eyes.
Stephen, the coaching staff has added Andy Avalos there on defense, and that's going to be different. Joe Gillespie now down here coaching at Midway. Is it going to be a different scheme or just a different way of looking at the scheme they want to run?
It's going to be a brand new, entirely different scheme. Last year, you got to think about it. TCU was in the 3-3-5 98% of the time, maybe with the exception of when you're inside the 5-yard line. I think with this defense now, man, you're going to see defenses where there's one linebacker on the field. They might have 3. They might rush 4. They might rush 5. They're going to have packages where they send 6 guys. And last year, really these last 2 years, it seemed like TCU never really wanted to send more than 4 guys. And even when they did send 4, you could tell that wasn't their specialty. That wasn't something they were necessarily comfortable with. So I think Avalos has a more attacking style of defense, which I think why the linebackers have to be a little bit more athletic. So brand new scheme, brand new philosophy as well.
What do you think Kendall Briles learned, I guess, last year, or what he takes away from last year in terms of what they tried to apply this season and moving forward?
I think it's all about being better situationally for the offense. I think, they were top 25, top 30 in total yards per game. like they could move the ball from the 20 to the 20, man. That offense, for the most part, was pretty good at moving the ball. But situationally, they just were not a good team. Some of that was they had a Chandler Morris struggle with turnovers, and then they had an inexperienced quarterback in Josh Hoover. Some of that was play calling. I think I remember a bunch of times where it's 3rd and short, 4th and short, and you see TCU calling some type of jet sweep going east-west as opposed to north-south. So I would hope that I think he understands a little bit more about picking his spots, picking when to be aggressive, when to try to be not cute, but when to try to be creative, and when sometimes, hey, man, we just got to line up and go right at these guys. So I think it was an encouraging first year, but overall, they got to be a lot better situation, especially in the red zone.
Stephen, TCU has run the series against Baylor now for over a decade. There's been some wins, some huge ones, 61-58, double, triple, whatever, overtime. Charlie Brewer in 19 or whatever it was. But TCU owns the rivalry. What was, if anything, any kind of murmur or discussion when Baylor announced they were going to honor their Big 12 championship teams, and Gary Patterson will be on the Baylor sideline with Kendall Cos and also Carlton Buckles on the TCU staff?
Well, I think for the guys currently on staff, I don't think there's been much of a big deal because obviously they know those guys were at Baylor, but obviously with Gary it's different.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people it's just weird. There's less anger, vitriol because obviously he was at Texas last year, and I think that because he went there and then went to Baylor, it's like, I guess, he wants to stay in the Big 12 now. But it is, there was a picture one of the practices of him in Baylor gear, even for me, that was different for me to see. So I think right now it's just a little bit strange for people. It's a little bit awkward, but obviously with him being at Texas the year before, it hasn't been as nasty as maybe it could have been a couple years ago.
Yes, like, okay, let me take a tour, and he's a brilliant mind defensively, but let's take a tour of the teams that go back and play TCU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, and like he's a great defensive mind. Obviously, he helped out Texas that first year. So I think people around Fort Worth get it. This is a guy that loves football and wants to be around. And at some point, man, the school colors, the allegiance, guys just want to work and be around football, whether they're at Baylor, Texas Tech, or TCU.
Yeah, and you can't say much when you've hired Kendall Briles.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what are you going to say?
It's not like, oh, we can do it, but my God, How can you take Gary Patterson? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So weird. You said weird or strange, and you are absolutely 100% correct on that. It's a very bizarre situation.
Are you looking forward to being able to cut the tension with a knife when they celebrate the Big 12 championship 10-year anniversary at all? Like just cutting it with a knife?
Hey, I'll be fine. I'll be interested to see how the crowd or how the social media interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be very interested to see, because I know it's just going to be not even bittersweet, man. It's just going to be like, hey, man, you helped build up TCU, and they got you on the sideline celebrating their success. Like I said, I'm sure it's just going to be weird and strange, and this just adds another wrinkle to this rivalry that I think I told you before. I never knew it was this intense until I got down here on the beach.
That place, he won a bunch of games there. I think to each their own on, I'll leave those who are more well-versed in Florida cities on where they rank Orlando. I know I've always had a pretty good time when I've gone there. I think you've got to be a certain type of personality to love Miami. You might not have it as high. Some others would have it at a clear number one. And there's a few other spots, obviously. Gainesville and Tallahassee, people to each their own on that. But, yeah, I think Orlando's a good spot. I think that they're in a good place now in the Big 12. I think they've got a really good head coach in Gus Malzahn, and they've got a lot of lessons learned from year one in the Big 12. I mean, that Baylor game, that was right there for the taking, and they let that one slip through their fingers, and there were some other moments last year that they'd like to have back. So, 10 years, who knows what college sports looks like at that point. I don't know if you're ever getting an invite if they have the great break-off, which – I know it seems like it's very quiet this week as far as ACC news, and I guess we got our fill of like kind of the back and forth legally. But yeah, I think that where they are right now, they've got some possibilities to plant some roots and really build on this thing and take it to another level. There's a lot of ammunition down there in Orlando to play with a massive student body, with the city, with the commitment levels and all of that. So, I don't know about sleeping giant. I know that was a term that's been applied to them quite a bit. I think they're kind of well known now at this point, so I don't know how much that would catch people by surprise. But, I think they've certainly gotten more upward trajectory so long as they, make the right decisions.
Well, they were always – looked at as a commuter school, like back in the day.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to, because people don't, read the trades when it comes to universities' upward mobility. So if you grew up or you knew anything about UCF, if you didn't, find out that, their engineering school is one of the best in the country and their student body is enormous. They've got the youngest, living alumni base per capita of anybody. All these things that you hear and I didn't hear about. So, you need to know those things because, again, the average Joe on the street, you ask them what they know about UCF, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's in Orlando, right? Commuter school. And you're like, no, it's definitely not that. I mean, it maybe at one point in its history was, but, that would be like saying, where do you go to the bathroom? Oh, out back. There's a wooden place with the hole dug in the ground. We've come to indoor plumbing now. UCF is now up in the stratosphere, and they're growing. So, I don't know that a sleeping giant. They have a ton of potential, though. Because
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they have a ton of potential. If they can keep it going and they make good decisions, and it's not just in football, but they have a ton of potential in everything.
I was in Tampa. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just here's the thing, too. I mean, you're never going to be bigger than Florida State. You're not going to be bigger than Florida. I mean, you might have better years, but you're not going to be bigger brand-wise. And you're probably not going to be bigger than Miami. But I will say, if Miami falls down the cracks the way that they could potentially, depending on how certain dominoes fall, you might be looking them eye to eye here in the same conference in a few years. You know what I mean? So just best prepare yourself for whatever comes next. If you're UCF, you were ready for the opportunity when the Big 12 called. Get your NIL right, get your ducks in a row and get ready for, the need to pivot depending on just what the landscape continues to shift like. But you got the ticket that you so desperately wanted, and you probably got it right in the nick of time, when you think about them and BYU and Cincinnati and Houston. So very fortunate there with the timing that they made the move when they did. And, let's see what they do with it. But I think there's a ton of untapped potential, certainly still there in Orlando. Let's see if Gus Malzahn can't bring some more of that out.
Right.
But with Scott Frost, I mean, his basic message in that article, at least the part I read, he had that passing comment about UCF, but he wants to get back in coaching. And was not obviously happy with the way his Nebraska tenure went, and it was a disaster. I mean, based on the expectations and as much the hopes and dreams that they had there for the Golden Boy to come back and lead them back to prominence. It did not go that way at all, and so Matt Rule's the guy now. But I do think Scott Frost will get another crack.
Well,
he's going to have a hard time.
He sat down with Dennis Dodd,
right?
He's on.
He's on the rehab tour. Of course he is. But I do think I was going to finish and say it's going to take him some time to get anywhere close to where he was just 2-3 years ago as far as his trajectory goes. That's going to take some time to like Tom Herman, get back to where you were a star in the sky. Now you're kind of just back in the I guess lower levels, having to work your way back up.
I'm surprised that two things haven't happened with Scott Frost, and maybe because he chose to sit out, a little longer.
He's getting a lot of money right now.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of money, but I'm surprised that a Group of 5 school hasn't hired him as the head coach, or that a Power 5 or Power 4 school hasn't hired him as the offensive coordinator.
Well, I didn't read the article yet. I will tonight because I'm obviously interested. I'm still a Scott Frost fan for what he did, won a national title. It just didn't work out in Lincoln, and a lot of it probably is his fault, and there's also maybe some systematic issues too.
I mean, he's 49 years old, so he's still quite a young coach, but he just rose so fast. I mean, it was like Nebraska couldn't hire him soon enough. I mean, all he had to do was just show he can win a few games, and they're like, all right, you're ready, boom, let's cook. And he just clearly was not ready for that gig, and maybe he never will be, but certainly he wasn't at that time, and now he's hoping for a second chance, so we'll see.
You hear about some of the organizational issues and maybe some lack of discipline, maybe even perhaps from Scott Frost or whatever, but what I always was so impressed with, and I was so excited, not only because of who he was as a player, is that when he was still trying to coach UCF to the bowl game, that he was flying back and forth between Lincoln and Orlando to try to make sure he didn't give up on UCF and filled out that commitment while also trying to work on the future, but it did not work out. I need you to put up the Chris Vanini tweet now.
Yeah.
Here's Chris Vanini. Details on the private equity proposed college football Super League. Andrew Marchand and Stuart Mandel with a double dip in theathletic.com would have all FBS but 70 teams in a top tier plus a promotion tier, one entity, pay players, and everything. But most college leaders are skeptical. That just launched on theathletic.com.
Well, going to need some time to digest that, but that's certainly very interesting. It's a pitch, as he mentions, from executives, a group of influential sports leaders and college presidents pitching a drastic change. And we've heard all the talk about the Super League these last few years and various insiders of what exactly that would look like. And lots of speculation and anonymous sources and things that have all kind of been bubbling to the point where, regardless of where the information's coming from, you're hearing it so often, like there's got to be something to this, but what exactly is it? And, here's part of kind of the unveiling, I guess, of where minds are right now.
Skeptical, remember that word, though. Yeah. But here, let me read a little bit of this. I don't like to read too much. The current, what is that group, outline would create a system that would have the top 70 programs, because we've always heard it might be 45 or 50, all members of the 5 former major conferences plus Notre Dame and new ACC member SMU as permanent members and encompass all 130 plus FBS universities. Here's what they say. 7 10-team divisions of perpetual members joined by an 8th division of teams that would be promoted from the second tier. A 50-plus second division teams would have the opportunity to compete their way into the upper division, very similar to European football leagues.
Yeah, college.
This is kind of fun just to read
wants to be soccer so bad and has for so long. I mean, I've seen the articles from Bill Connolly and the like for years and years now of why they've, felt like soccer was the model that college football to aspire to. The relegation part, that's something that I think I'm not a huge fan of it. I think the problem is in the way it was presented a lot of the times was that you were talking about like Big 12 teams or ACC teams are having to fight. And there's just that would not be possible because you couldn't recruit. You have to know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do something like that part never made sense to me. And however, if you were to do that with schools who are all on the same page, like at the lower level of they want to be in the power, whatever, and they'll do anything to get there, and they're all competing with similar schools as far as budgets and things like that, I do think that can make for an incredibly fun race, like the conference tournaments we see of who gets into March Madness. Like you could have that element of James Madison, or they get into the league and then they drop if they don't perform well. I see where that could be interesting. I just never was on board with like Oklahoma State has a bad year and suddenly they're out and then they got to like that never made sense to me.
This thing makes a lot of sense, although it's such a drastic shift on what we're used to, but it would probably put the teams back fairly regional.
But and if you're OU and Texas or the teams that are leaving to go to these monster conferences, and they say there would be 7 10-team divisions, so you wouldn't have an SEC or you wouldn't have a Big Ten.
I haven't read it all, so that's what they're saying then.
But here's a nice little bit of flavor on the top for me as a person who is now in a blood feud against the selection committee. The playoffs would not require a selection committee, as the 8 division winners and 8 wild cards from the top tier would go to the postseason. The wild card spots would be determined,
it would take 9 years to make sure
by record and tiebreakers, much like the NFL.
Yep. Chief among the obstacles this new venture faces are the billions of dollars in TV deals that are all the top conferences have locked in with major networks. The FBS conferences recently signed off on a new 6-year, $8 billion extension with ESPN for the exclusive rights to expand college football, the playoff. It's a lot of fun to read, though.
Also, because of all the deals and money they have, the Big Ten and SEC don't want to share that money. Like that's the whole point. Is like if you do this, that means that the Big Ten and the SEC have to agree to share the money, which right now
it could be in a ratio.
Yeah, I like.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: we're all going to need to digest this a little bit because it's just popping off, and there's obviously a lot of elements to this, and we need to reinforce this is a pitch.
Yeah, this is just
not
an
like
idea.
this is now the next step. I just saw our buddy Jason Shear in passing, is it okay if I like college football the way that it is? And I'm kind of the same mindset, although I think the majority of fans out there who are not a part of the SEC and the Big Ten would probably grab this like a life preserver and hold on as tight as humanly possible, as opposed to this idea that some have been trying to float of, you're not in the club and you're just banished and you have no chance of ever competing for titles again, which I think is just just a weird idea which doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the grand scheme of things to want to eliminate when there's clearly desires for live sports and inventory and all these different events and to think that you're just going to cast people aside. I have never really bought that element of it, but this would seem to satiate everybody's appetite to some extent. Now, again, the devil's in the details, and this is just a pitch. So here's what's happening. They're floating this out there, and they're going to get everybody's reaction to it, and goofs like us and everybody on Twitter, and they're going to see what the reaction to it is like anything else, and then go from there. But if the Super League is a league where all of the major conferences are still all the major conferences for the most part, and then you have those who have been dying to get in the door, you're giving them the hook in the water of, hey, you have this relegation piece to it, then, we'll see on the money details, but would that not be the best case scenario? I mean, just in general, and I know that, like I said, the devil's in the details, because if you're doing this for a lot less money, then it's not great.
The first thing I thought of was 70 teams. You'd have all these teams that are worried about whether they're going to be included, Oklahoma State or Baylor or Tech or K-State.
Everybody not in the top two, and Notre Dame.
Even SMU, yeah, absolutely.
So,
I just asked Stuart if he could jump on with us tomorrow. That'd be fun to watch.
From that standpoint, it would be good news for everybody. But how do you continue to deal with the competitive imbalances? I mean, do those just continue to grow? I don't know. There's obviously a lot of questions, but it's a fun thing to think about. And this has been brought up enough times by enough parties and similar or same parties in a lot of cases that usually float what's coming next or the ideas that are on the horizon, that it's obviously very much in the cooker, and they're trying to see what it looks like.
It's very misleading. Go ahead.
I would also note that one of the sources that they talked to said that the idea that there's untapped financial avenues for this is naive, according to one executive. And I believe them, given the fact that, the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. This is just a random response, but I like this is very misleading headline. Nothing burger here. Hit me up when the leaders like Greg and Tony are actually involved, or ESPN. Till then, you get nothing, which is, again, I don't know whether or not they're involved in this or not. Sankey will absolutely let us know.
I can't wait for somebody to send this to Kim Jong Sankey and him say no. So wait, would we have to share money? Would the ACC and the Big 12 get as much as us? And they're like, probably a little bit more. And he's like, that's.
Nobody cared about college football's ecosystem. Yeah. So would this not fly under that umbrella? Wouldn't this be better for everybody as a whole versus some big break-off?
I still think that.
Or is he full of it?
Let's just say that there were 7 10-team divisions. There will be different percentages for those who are a part of it, whether you're a part of Division A, B, C, or F. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nothing burger to some extent, as in it's not happening right now or probably anytime soon. But I don't think you can just take the constant mentioning of something along these lines, the constant mentioning of it in Fox articles and ESPN articles and so on and so forth, and not think that obviously they're floating ideas for a reason, and they're floating these things because there's absolutely talk behind the scenes. Now, whether that amounts to anything or not, it might be nothing. But, if Greg Sankey does care about the greater ecosystem of college athletics, this seems like it would be a great deal for all involved. But again, devil in the details. This is a very loose, article in terms of those types of things. And how would 7 10-team divisions work? So suddenly Texas and Oklahoma aren't in the SEC anymore.
And they're back in the same division part of it, with Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. They don't want that.
That part of it doesn't compute for me right now without reading more of the article and hearing more about this. But the Super League, I mean, that's been bandied about for years now, so there is something behind it. But if it's this iteration of it, remains to be seen.
All right, let's break here. Paul Catalina at his top. Are we all back? Everything good again?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
We've been
Paul
good
Catalina.
for quite some time.
All right, just making sure the top 5 just around the corner. Again, welcome to our newest sponsors, Carry On Solutions, IT, thanks to David Carry On.
And golfpartner.com.
Golfpartner.com. This is 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive. This is not about working out. This is not about fitness. This is not about the equipment and the exercise classes. This is about Monday, April the 8th, with the eclipse coming. And this area, among all around the entire country, is one of the ones that's going to get and already have people moving, flying in, getting here to be a part of the eclipse. On Monday at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, when it's in that late morning, early afternoon, they're going to have anybody that wants to come work out at the gym or be a part of pickleball or tennis, instead of a $10 charge for a daily fee, it's $5. There will be food trucks. There will be a live band. There will be a boot camp in the middle of the day instead of very early on Tuesday and Thursday morning. And there will also be other activities for children and whoever you bring. You could even bring animals like your dog to this event, because right there at that beautiful stadium court with the tennis facilities could be one of the best places to experience the solar eclipse that's coming up on Monday. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Rev up your excitement. Celebrate the spirit of adventure during the Jeep Celebration event. Join us at Allen Samuels in Waco as we roll out incredible deals on rugged and reliable Jeep vehicles you love. Seize the moment and drive home in the new Jeep of your dreams. With special financing options and exclusive offers, there has never been a better time to explore the world of Jeep. Hurry in, the savings won't last long. Visit AllenSamuelsDCJ.com and see them firsthand only at Allen Samuels in Waco. Let your adventure begin.
Come by, let's be friends.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It's time time for Paul Catalina's Top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 questions after the Stefon Diggs trade. I can get into this with my Cowboys emotions with this first one.
You already have, but go ahead again.
Yeah. Number 5, can the Texans and Cowboys be on Turkey Day? Can this be the Thanksgiving game? Diggs v. Diggs.
Yeah, that way
Texas
both of them
versus
can
Texas.
have turkey together after the game.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great. Also, I would like to, at this point in the season where the Texans are probably taking off, and I'm going, what is going on with the Cowboys? Just be able to see Jerry's face. You're like, oh, this is how you do that. This is how you do that. And also, nothing will make Jerry change his philosophy faster than the Texans doing something that they're not. Because while the other teams in the NFC East bother him, he's the king of Texas. He does not want everybody talking about, oh, look what Houston's doing. I don't think he would say this out loud, but...
So he's not upset about the San Antonio Gunslingers?
I don't think he wants the Texans to ever take any of their oxygen away.
Plus Houston and Dallas hate each other, yeah.
Even though they would take a lot for them to take any of the Cowboys' oxygen away, if they start even taking 2% of it away, it's going to be upsetting for him.
And they do play in Arlington next year. Yep. It's one of the home games.
Yeah, I think that much like some of these conferences or colleges kind of want to box out certain people, I think Jerry, the way to do that is to not give them the opportunity, right? So I think for Jerry, you're not going to give the Texans an opportunity on Thanksgiving to embarrass you. Mm-hmm. You're just not even going to go for that. It doesn't matter how much, the in-state battle could be marketed or whatever. I don't think for a second he's going to risk the chance that, it's one thing getting beat by the Packers the Dolphins or something on Thanksgiving Day. It'd be another thing entirely in a battle of Texas to get beat by the Texans on the day that you have ruled for so very long. But yeah, I'd be all for more of a ramping up of the rivalry. So we see what the Astros and Rangers has turned into ever since the Astros rejoined the American League. The Rockets, Spurs, and Mavericks, depending on how good the teams are at any given moment, can always get pretty feisty. But there's not really an element between the Texans and the Cowboys outside of the fact that they're just both in Texas. But there's not really anything else to it. There was the Texans beating them was that a preseason game?
Oh no,
or was that a regular season game?
That was an opening game.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been so long, but there was
that. It was
the
Texans' first ever game.
Yeah, there was that, and then I guess there's been little things here and there, but for the most part, that's not really a rivalry of any sort. But yeah, I'd love to see more of that. I just don't think Jerry's going to risk it.
You think anyone's going to throw a ball inside this weekend when the Astros and Rangers play? Because the Rangers are absolutely getting drilled. Quite a bit.
Well, the guy who hit Josh Young was a former Astros pitcher, which is why there was all this big to-do about it, was the thought that he was getting some measure of revenge. But yeah.
Hit Adolis and then hit Josh Young, who's out now for 2 months, and then also a third player, too. Yeah. All right, Paul.
Yeah. Number 4. What are the Texans actually missing at this point? Look at their offense. They've got 2 good tackles in Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil. They've got a tight end in Dalton Schultz, who's very good. They've got 3 wide receivers that you can depend on in Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and now Stefon Diggs, who's a legit star. Although he did tail off at the end of last year, I think he's still got gas in the tank. They've got C.J. Stroud, a young quarterback in his rookie deal, who was fantastic. They went and got Joe Mixon for their running game, which was atrocious last year. They've got some potential on defense with bringing in Danielle Hunter. They signed a defensive tackle who still escapes me, and I'm sorry about that. They've got some intriguing things going on in the secondary. They brought in Jeff Okudah on a 1-year prove-it deal. So what are they missing at this point? And look, they have a pick that's late in the second round after they traded the pick they just got from the Vikings to the Bills to get Stefon Diggs. But again, right now you're in a position in the draft where you can get whatever you want, whatever you feel like you need, and then in the rest of free agency, if you can't do that, fill out a spot starter here and there. There are not too many holes in this roster, and Nick Caserio has done an amazing job of filling it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the roster well enough, but you just laid it out pretty much all there. So I think I saw, before today, draft needs were still a defensive back was where I saw an article the other day. I don't know how accurate that remains, like I said. But, you can always improve, and they have certainly done that this offseason. I think they spent like $150 million in guaranteed money the last few months. So they're in it to win it. They've got their quarterback, and it's kind of amazing. Once you realize you've got the guy, that's when you can start to fill in all the pieces around him. I think the thing with a team like the Washington Commanders, who 3 of us in this room have rooted for our whole lives, is that you've never had the quarterback, basically, so it's hard to know what to do around that because you don't have that strong root to build from, and the Texans have that, and they're going, all right, we definitely have the guy who's going to be the guy for a long time. So let's give him all the ammunition he needs, and let's go win some freaking Super Bowls. And that's got to be a great feeling for Texans fans.
Yeah.
Hey, can I do real quick? Can I give Adam McDonald your cell phone number?
Absolutely not. No.
Millions of questions, Adam. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. No. My private life is my private life. I'm a very reserved person. Number 3, how many more Bills are out the door? Look, Jordan Poyer out the door. Tre'Davious White out the door. Stefon Diggs out the door. Mitch Morris out the door. Gabe Davis out the door. So that's
another wide receiver,
that's
right? Yeah.
5 starters. Now, look, I did like that they brought in Curtis Samuel, but he's not a number 1 wide receiver. He's going to work really well in Joe Brady's offense because we've seen him work well in Joe Brady's offense before, and he's going to mesh well there. But they might have some other ones going out. I can assume, since this is such a good wide receiver draft, that's that pick at 28 or that pick at 42 will be a wide receiver because they're going to need it, and would not be surprised to maybe see them go sign an Odell Beckham or something that they can get him on a nice 1-year deal to help improve that. I don't think the window is closed for the Bills, but the window is closed for this version of the Bills, like you said earlier, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, the Josh Allen window is still very much open, but beyond that, I think their version of who they've been, that clearly ended this past season. And Stefon Diggs and various others now out the door have led to a bit of a reset, and you've at least got the starting quarterback that I just mentioned. That's the hardest part to nail down, and then once you can do that, you can go find other guys. So I'm sure they'll find a great receiver in the draft and the like, but certainly if you were hoping for it to all get cashed in these last couple of seasons, unfortunately there's been guys like Patrick Mahomes in your way and just things out of your control as a fan. But they've still got the quarterback, so that's good, but it is a bit bittersweet, I'm sure, seeing so many guys moving on from a team you hoped was going to get to the promised land.
Whose window is closing quicker? Cowboys, Dak, Bills, Josh Allen.
Dak.
Yeah, I have to say Cowboys, Dak.
In fact,
I mean, I think
Cowboys have probably, Craig, basically admitted that themselves. That our window, we've done it, and now we've got to try to at least still win, but we've got to do it differently.
I mean, I think Dak's had as much help as anybody around him. I know there's certain areas that Paul feels like they can, and other Cowboys fans that they can get better, but I mean, you can't put better weapons than they've continuously put around him. They seemingly tried to go all in, but I think Dak is on more of a clock because I don't think there's anybody in Buffalo going like, well, Josh Allen better prove something here. We're going to need to get a new quarterback. They're saying that in Dallas. They're not saying that in Buffalo.
No, absolutely not. Number 2, how do the Bills replace him? Do they replace him in the aggregate? Do they do it in the draft? Is Joe Brady's scheme a little bit different? Is it the guys they have on the roster right now? Do you trust Josh Allen to do that? I don't know, because Stefon Diggs was the guy who came in and helped get the offense over the top. Because before then they were still kind of, man, this Josh Allen's really talented and athletic, but we've got to get him a number 1 target. We'll see. Maybe Curtis Samuel is that guy. Maybe the guys they have on the roster right now are better than we think, and the draft pick can work out. But man, it's gonna be different not to see him there.
Their wide receivers are Justin Shorter, Khalil Shakir, Chris Samuel, Mac Hollins, Tyrell Shavers, Andy Isabella, KJ Hamler, and Brian Thompson.
Yeah,
I've heard of maybe 2 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of more than that, but, certainly it's not a star-studded roster, and it's definitely missing a big piece now with Stefon Diggs not being a part of that mix. So I saw the latest mock draft from, I think it was Field Yates. He had them picking Xavier Worthy. They've got the 28th pick, and so Xavier Worthy would make a lot of sense, but just fill in a receiver's name. Lucky for them, there's a lot of receivers. There's a lot of really good receivers. There's a lot of first-round talent wide receivers. So many that, some guys are likely to get picked in the second round that are first-round talent guys. Yeah. So they can certainly go and add a couple of wide receivers in this draft if they play their cards right. I definitely would need more than Xavier Worthy. You'd want more than just that, but – maybe they put together I don't know what their situation is exactly with their cash of what they have to offer up, but they can go in the draft, and there's plenty of receivers to be found.
But the dudes, the alphas, aren't they? Craig and Paul, the ones that go in the top 10?
Yeah, those are Malik Neighbors.
I mean, that's Harrison Jr. and those, but they're still like
Neighbors.
Yeah, plenty of
but you
really
go,
solid wide receivers. Go get A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Worthy.
Lad McConkey, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, Xavier Legette, Malachi Corley, all guys who could work out well. Number one, how legit a contender are the Texans? They're still in the AFC, and the AFC still has Josh Allen, who we're talking about. They've got Joe Burrow. They've got Justin Herbert with a new coach in Jim Harbaugh. They've got lots of other guys. And they've got this dude named Mahomes who's done a couple of nice things in the league. I don't know if you've heard about him, but they've got Mahomes.
I watched him play safety in high school.
So
how about that?
You can you make the jump? Can you go toe to toe, mano a mano with Mahomes and the Chiefs? Are they that legit of a contender right now? I guess we'll see, but they're betting that they are. Otherwise, they don't make these moves.
I was stunned at their success and what C.J. Stroud was able to do, but they seem to be young, talented, fast, and they have some collateral too. So I don't know, but again, Kansas City's Kansas City until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Houston was able to get into the second round of the playoffs. That's a nice start. It's still a couple rounds short, and they got embarrassed by Baltimore. I mean, they got beat up pretty good in that game in the divisional round. So they're still a little bit of a ways away, but they're not that far away. I mean, you get in the second round of the playoffs, you're just one game from the AFC Championship. And, whether that's making the game means that you're close to the Chiefs or not, I don't know. But, I mean, I'll put it this way. They were nowhere close about a year ago, and they are far closer now than I think probably anybody could have thought that they would be. In comparison to where they were prior to hiring DeMeco Ryans, prior to drafting C.J. Stroud. And they've been a team that's had pretty consistent average success, but it does feel like they've got a difference maker at quarterback, potentially at head coach, and at a couple of other spots as well if things work right. And they've got another draft to add up even more players and add even more talent to that roster. So they're shaping up well. I don't think you're all in on a Super Bowl run just yet, but I don't think you're like 5 years from that either. I think you're looking in the next couple of years of them really trying to get a deeper and possibly having the potential to do so.
They're fun, and I love the fact they have a Jalen Petrie who's played well. And,
he needs to play better.
He does. The Terrell Bernard, of course, Buffalo, and Petrie has to play better. You're exactly right. Brandon Marcello, I'm going to read some of it. On the response to the story we were talking about, Paul, thank you very much, TexasBeefHouse.com. Their online auction, April 25th, more information on that available. A few big boys, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, have been reluctant to join the conversation, but a push is being made among some executives and university presidents for a super league in college football. Intelligent people with money are involved, and with back pay lawsuits from players on the burner, universities potentially on the hook for billions of dollars, simplifying the structure, trying to strike bigger payouts and media scheduling for schools is tempting. Private equity could help a rocky financial future. Then at the end he goes, my question, is there really more money to mine from the TV streaming networks? I've got my doubts, which is what you brought up when we discussed the article.
Yeah, I mean, there might be reasons why you think there should be more money, but ultimately the networks are the ones deciding how much they want to spend, right? And they flat out made the choice of we've got this stopping point when it comes to the Pac-12, and we're not going any higher than this. And we've got this amount we're willing to offer for this league and for this league, but you can't force them to offer up more. And we saw that firsthand with what? these early playoff games, right? The lack of competition for those games, the disappointment that, like, wait, really? Is it all just ESPN? Like, nobody else wants to step up to the table? And we've had our media guys say, like, there's just not that level of interest in those early round games. So, yeah, it seems like, for the most part, the money is what it is. And it's not like some big bird swooping in with more money bags on the horizon anytime soon. I mean, the situation's not going to just dramatically change overnight, and there's just boons of cash awaiting everybody on the other side of it. So, yeah, I think these lawsuits have been in mind for quite a while now. A lot of discussion about those and what those could mean, and the hits that each school is going to have to take when you're talking about the potential of these payouts. Now, we're not quite there yet, but we're getting close. So, yeah, I mean, if the TV money is not going to be that much greater than it is already, how could you possibly put on the best product to hopefully squeeze some more out? Maybe this is a solution. Maybe there's other ways of doing that. But yeah, I think the TV money has dried up to some extent. That's been pretty evident by a lot of the moves over the past year or so. It's intriguing, and we will study it ourselves. Have a little homework tonight. Reach out to a couple of analysts and their thoughts and opinions. Did send Stuart Mandel, even Brandon Marcello a text if in fact one of them or both of them are available. Garrett, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thanks to all of our sponsors as we grew a couple of new ones, as we mentioned earlier today. Jack McKenzie for everything he does. And Emery Winters already dialing up, putting together 365 Sports Tonight for tonight at 10:30 on the local CW. Thank you in the chat room, those who text and those who just watch but aren't a part of the chat room. Thank you so much. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, please hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't before you leave. I'm David Smoak. Good night.